love the show. I love you guys. Fucking, let's go Jets. Jets, Jets.
Can't all be beautiful.
You're in the danger zone.
Welcome in, everybody, to the Danger Zone. I am live with Daniel Murphy. What is up, dude?
Oh, what's going on, man? It's a wonderful feel good Friday as always. We got us a little beer, we got us a little liquor, we got us some friendship, some companions. We got an excellent companion about to come on here shortly into the Danger Zone. A lot of you in the chat will probably know him because he's been around for a while. I've been rocking with him for 3 or 4 years myself. Well, we're not gonna jump into who.
Yeah,
it is.
you know what?
Yeah, I almost let it slip.
Uh-huh.
Even though it says it in the thing, but that's okay. I'm excited about it, man. I always love talking to this dude, whether it's in the chats, on the streams, whatever, man.
You know
I think
what?
we got a good Friday night ahead of us.
Damn straight. And that's one thing. If you followed this channel along, you know we definitely stick to football talk. So you know, if you're looking for something else, that's fine. But we do kind of we narrow it down to just Jets talk. And I've been excited for this guest, man. I was gonna have him on last year, or at least ask him, and you know, I wanted the channel to be a little better off by the time I called in that favor, so to speak. So I think now, dude, we are 120 subscribers away from my goal, 500. Your goal, I think, too. We're getting there, dude. We are 75% there. So perfect time to have him, man. Perfect time. He has his own takes. You know, that's one thing I want to throw out there is, you know, there's a lot of people that get swayed by popular opinion. This guy, not so much. Not so much. So
He's not
perfect.
gonna come in here and spew Twitter takes all day.
Yes, facts.
He's very genuine.
So, like you said, you've been watching him a couple years. So have I as well. I think you said 3 or 4 for you. I think it's been at least 2 for me. I've only seen him for face to face maybe once or twice. So hopefully he doesn't hit the X, you know, as soon as I bring him in. But you know what? Let's take that risk, okay? I'd like to welcome in to the Danger Zone, none other than Jeremy Jets Chaos. What's up, brother?
What is up, guys? It's good to be here. Good to be here. I'd love to love that you're like building closer to 500, and then after that, set new goals and on to 1,000 and on to 5,000. No reason you shouldn't get there.
You know what? There's something too about the small channels. Like growing is awesome, it is, but I don't know, man. We got this little Friday night crew that comes in. I don't know. Maybe they're like me and don't have a night club life or whatever. But it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, I've always called my channel as well. I've always called it like a boutique channel, which I prefer, right?
Yes, yes.
Just like not catering to the masses, just catering to just the people who want specifically what you want to provide.
Yeah,
Facts.
so and that's the thing that like whenever Dane wanted to launch this thing and he asked me to jump aboard with him and I, when he was proposing this and we were talking about it, we talked about like how, you know, we're willing to do the slow grind. And actually it's really not for the 50,000 subscribers or any of that type of stuff. It's really not for that. It's just for like just sincere ball talk, man. Like, so if it's a slow grind, then we're totally fine with it because we know that the guys that are in our chats and stuff like that, they actually come in here to want to talk ball,
Yeah.
and they want to, they want to actually discuss what it's all about and how we've all become friends, throughout the years of the past few years and like YouTube and Twitter, things like that. And that's something that Dane and I have both appreciated about your channel is like, yeah, of course, like I know whenever Jeremy Jet's Chaos comes on, we might talk a little food sometimes, but we definitely talk our ball too, right? It's not this like big, like overblown, like we're gonna make a big spectacle out of the ridiculousness of this person or that person and try to. I'm not going to get into all that, but I'm just saying it was always just genuine, man. It was just some guys
Yeah.
talking ball, discussing what we think's best for our team in the future, and maybe we'll drop a little food review in here later on or whatever.
And
But, you know,
I love that you're saying all that because there were times where I felt my channel was beginning to stray. And I've had to pull back and say, this is going the wrong direction. Like, this is
mhm.
not what I wanted. And sometimes you have to do that. You guys have to reflect and say, am I steering off the course of where I want to be? And I did come to that crossing, that split in the road of this is becoming something I don't want. Like, I don't, we're not talking about ball anymore. And I
Facts.
did this to talk about the Jets. And, and I'd rather have 30 people watching me or even 20 people watching me that are quality people that are here to talk Jets, support each other, respect each other, than to have 200 people watching that are in the chat disrespecting each other, putting,
Yes.
insulting, can't handle anybody having a different opinion. Like, that's not why I'm doing this. I'm doing this because I
Facts.
want to get together with guys like you, and I want to talk about the Jets and respect each other's opinions and even learn from each other.
You know what? And that's great because, like, I think we all have this in common, but it really is the reason why probably you did it too. But for me, like, starting this helped because when I was in my teenage years as a Jet fan out of market, I couldn't talk ball really with anyone. Like the extent of my content was like the Rex Ryan era press conferences that were, mind you, epic. But like I was surrounded by Steeler fans, and most of them were casual to say the least. So like they couldn't name three Jets. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
that's why I do like keeping it. Like focused on football talk and Jet talk because I do like the idea that anyone can log in anywhere in the world and find this niche like you mentioned.
Yeah.
Um, so hey, I do want to ask you. Murph mentioned the food reviews. Can you tell us how long you've been doing that, and maybe like what someone would find if they looked your channel up, and yeah, like where do
Sure.
you intend on going with it?
I'll tell you the story. And since my father passed, unfortunately, in August, we slowed down the channel. We're gonna get it back going, but we kind of all agreed we needed a break. It was just too much, like, because he loved the channel so much. My dad loved watching our videos, and we just said, let's just stop for a little bit and we'll pick it up again. But basically in the pandemic, it was a way of me and my brother staying connected. We were like stuck and isolated in our own little worlds. And it started off a hot sauce channel called Cravat Attack. And we would actually order hot sauces, and we'd order the same ones, and then we would rate the heat and everything, and it was a lot of fun. And I used to burn my mouth off, and everybody got a kick out of watching me suffer. And
There's nothing better than watch Chaos suffer on some hot sauce, buddy.
yeah. and then I
I've
went
contributed some super chats to that in my life.
I know that you have. I know that you have. And then I went to my brothers, and I was like, look, I was actually starting to because I did this. I used to do it on Facebook in 2015 before it was a thing, and never realized it would become a thing. I used to review. I lived in New York. I used to eat pizza and film myself talking about places in New York before Dave Portnoy, before all of that. So I told my brothers, I said, look, I want to start reviewing pizza and food. Like, instead of just pizza like Portnoy's doing, I want to just do every restaurant food that I eat in the house. I just want to start reviewing food and do, loving my passion for food. And I was thinking of doing a new channel, but we already had like 400 subscribers or something, or 300 subscribers on Cravat Attack. And they wanted to jump in with me. They said, you're right, the hot sauce is getting old. And, we could still do that as part of the channel, but we changed the name to Brooklyn Boys Food Review. So I'm sorry, Brooklyn Brothers Food Review. I don't even know the name of my own channel. Brooklyn Brothers Food Review. And we individually in different parts of the country do our food reviews, or when we travel, when we're together. And yeah, we just review different restaurants, different food products you get in the supermarket, whatever it happens to be. And if you go to Brooklyn Brothers Food Review, you'll see a bunch of videos from me and my brothers.
Awesome.
And I think that's an excellent, I think that's a great thing to keep the family together too, right? Just another little way to keep yourselves connected in a way. Even if you live apart and things like that, you can discuss things, that you're reviewing for the channel together, and and keep track of each other and what you're experiencing and things like that. I think it's a great thing.
And we love it. We love doing it.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing. It's, if you want to watch the food and get a feel for the food, go there. But also, if you want to see great reactions to the food, that's what Jeremy's good at. I feel like facial reaction, like you're there with him trying it. So definitely check that out for sure.
That's so funny you say that, because my wife told me, she goes, because I said, man, I don't know who cares. There's a million of these reviews. And she goes, yeah, but you're making, she's like, I'm literally laughing, filming you.
Facts.
Recording it. So.
Hey, reaction channels have taken off. So, like I said, if you're looking for that, check them out. Jeremy, I do want to get into Jet Talk. We spoke a little bit in the green room about the Aaron Glenn hire.
Mm-hmm.
Can you give me just your broad overview of what you felt like that hire was for the Jets?
Well, but at first, when there were rumors of him, I was not a fan of that. Honestly. And it wasn't that I had anything against him or any knowledge or any reason why I think he would fail. I just simply wanted Vrabel or Flores, because I just wanted a known entity. I wanted an experienced coach. I wanted an offensive-minded coach, but there was really no offensive-minded coaches out there to really, to get behind, except they'd be rookie coaches. So I initially started as, one of those guys. And honestly, part of it is just being positive too, and the wanting to be open-minded and positiveness as we talked more and more with Aaron Glenn, and then finally just listening to him, rather than just going by what I saw in Hard Knocks 2 years ago, but instead listening to who he is and getting to know him better. I started to feel better about it. I started to feel a lot better about it. I said, you know what? And I didn't know about the close connections to Sean Payton. That world opened up to me, and the realization that he's so close to Parcells, and, and knowing that he has their endorsements and they're his mentors, and he really is part of that tree. There's no better coaching tree I'd rather be under than Parcells. That's my coach of my lifetime coach. If I had to pick the coach of my life as a football fan, my favorite coach, the one I loved the most, the one I had, everything. It was Bill Parcells.
The big tuna.
And if you think about it, what's Bill Parcells known for, right? Being hard-nosed, right? Tough, but teaching, right? And that's something that our guy Chaos knows a little bit about, a little teaching. But So the thing about it is one thing that we've talked about over the last few years is it felt like our team was dysfunctional, and like there was no like there was a lack of accountability, right, on our team, between like the penalties and just the costly mistakes and guys not holding themselves accountable amongst each other either. And if there's one thing about Parcells that he was known for handling, is that. So what is a better time to bring in a guy that's under that tree, right?
Absolutely. I mean, this is above all else, the thing that's really upset me over the last 4 years overall, the bad taste in my mouth is just somebody made the reference and it upset other people, but it actually hit home with me. They said it's like, it felt like it was like camp, like, but not hard training camp. Like it was like, oh, a country club. Like we had become like the Aaron Rodgers country club. And that's not even an attack on Aaron Rodgers. It's just a feeling of what it became. Like, in other words, the coaches were no longer running the show. It was a place where the players came and they were the ones that took over. And the coaches had about 8 players that they controlled. And usually those were the young rookie players, the players that they could pick on. You know, it's kind of like they say, Chris Rock did a whole routine on selective violence or selected aggression, saying, oh, the reason Will Smith hit me is because I weigh 150 pounds. 1,000 people were saying things about his wife, but he picked me. Selective aggression. Well, it's the same thing with I felt about our coaching staff. It's like they selected the players they could be hardcore with, but then other people walked all over them. And as an educator, I and how to manage a classroom, I know you cannot do that. You have to be consistent with everyone. And the one thing is, and I think, as hard it is to say goodbye to Aaron Rodgers and who's going to be the quarterback, the one thing that you got to take as a positive about it is it certainly is Aaron Glenn saying, this is my locker room.
That is a great nugget there, by the way. The Chris Rock, Will Smith. That I didn't have that on my bingo card for tonight, but that actually applied beautifully. Um, you're right though. Like the more I hear about Glenn, just the more excited I get about it. Like you hear Aiden Hutchinson talk about him, rave about him. Also, like New York is a different animal. We know that. And this guy knows exactly what you mean about wanting an offensive coach. So I get that as well. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. Hopefully, he shoots Michael Clemens to the sun, because that's one guy that we didn't use our selective aggression on, and we should have.
Yeah. I mean, the fact that certain players never got reps, and we were told they have to be more professional, like Corley. And I was as mad at anybody at Corley when he dropped that ball going into the end zone. And I never was satisfied with his responses. But at the same time, I mean, we got Michael Clemens jumping on a pile like a child, like an emotional like wreck, like just doing a Superman body like fall onto
Belly
a
splash.
I mean, if I'm coach, you're benched, dude. You're out. And we were already out of it in the season anyway. So if you can't even you can't even do it when it doesn't even matter anymore. Like that, I understand if you need to win the next game to make the playoffs and you're worried about losing the talent. And I understand the dilemma a coach could be in, but we were already out of it. If a player does that, at what point do you take over that locker room and say, that's unacceptable? And we will bench you no matter who you are.
So to be fair, I don't know how aggressive I'm getting with Michael Clemens personally, but as a head coach of a team, you should probably man up and do it. I do agree. It's just like certain players, they pick and choose, and it was weird. It was like Xavier Gibson gets all the chances in the world, but Malachi Corley, on a play that he was making good on, he made a mistake.
Right.
And then you just never given him a chance the rest of the season. And it's like, okay, well, why'd you spend the pick on the guy and the 3rd round pick, which is a decently high pick, on the guy in the first place.
Right. And we traded up.
I don't understand it at all. And that's another thing too. Like whenever you have a young player like that, he's a young player, as we know. he made a mistake. Like, so when I first started driving, like I did get my license till I was 18. First started driving, everybody always says you wreck your first car, right? Like not long, everybody wrecks their first car or whatever. Sure enough, that's exactly what I did. 8 a.m. going to a psychology class in college, looking down at my iPod instead of at the wheel, off the road, through a pole, whatever. What I do when I get home, my dad's like, okay, well, we're going to have to go take care of this or whatever. He's like, let's go. Throws me the keys to the car. I said, Dad, I don't know if I should drive. Like, I don't know. And he's like, no. He's like, you have to. You have to drive.
Yeah.
He's like,
Sink
it's
or
just like
swim.
riding a bike. You fall off, you got to get back on. Same thing with Corley. Instead of saying, oh, you're cooked for the rest of the season, we're not going to develop anything out of you. No, you got to say, I'm going to give you another chance, and you need to be better.
Facts.
And
You
if
don't-
he shows that he's better, boom, problem solved. Maturity, instant maturity right there. He knows better. Like, it's just like, to me, it didn't make any sense to pull him out.
Well,
especially, what are we playing for towards the end of the season? We're not playing for shit.
Well, that's the worst part of having dead men walking at the end of the season. That was the worst part of the last 6-7 games of that year, because we had a bunch of the team being run by guys that knew they were out the door, so they had no desire to do what was right by us for the future. Meaning, we the fans, I know you guys are with me on this, play the kids so we know what we have. Like, we're sitting here and have no idea who Molokai Corley is. We don't know if he's a WR2, a WR3. Is he a good slot? We have no information because these guys could not care less because they knew they were gone.
It's crazy. And you know what? That's my number one knock on that entire regime was snap count distribution. And it wasn't just last year. Like, it was, I'm talking years and years of, and it maybe not as drastic as was showcased in 2024, but like the whole regime, like there was definitely complaints by me the entire time for, oh, how much is Brees getting? How much, don't get me started on Brees though. So, but that's another thing. Like Braylon Allen, Isaiah Davis were clearly running good in the beginning of the year, but yet Brees, it's just tough. And I don't know, like if Saleh himself was in charge with some of that, but I do like the idea that most of that regime is gone now. It's Sean Jefferson. You know what? I'm fine with keeping him.
Right. Well, I mean, you have to hold it under Saleh, whether it was him or not, in the sense that it's the culture is him, right? The culture of it, the fact that this was going on, that all falls under the head coach. Like, right? So any tendencies of the team, it definitely connects back to him. It falls under his responsibility to change that. So all of those things, when guys were messing up and some were being held accountable, some not being held accountable, all of those things fall under his umbrella of his responsibility.
Facts.
Yeah, and it was just like it's like he never took a step outside of the box and looked at what was wrong with the team and said, I need to address this, this, and this because these are reoccurring issues. Like it's like he never did it, man. He's like tunnel vision, man. This is what I do. This is going to work. It's going to work no matter what. I'm just going to keep doing it until it works. And it's like, no, it didn't, man. It just didn't.
Right.
And it was crazy. Whenever Ulbrich took over, it felt like it was the exact same thing. Like he just decided, I'm going to do the same thing, except worse, because at least Saleh ran a good defense,
Right.
Ulbrich took over and our defense took a shit. Not that it was that great before, but like it was,
Well, that was the stupidity of the move of, and to be fair to Ulbrich, even, we're going to make you head coach. And well, this is actually his fault too, because I think it was his choice. And we're not going to, you're going to stay the defensive coordinator. And why he was allowed to do that. Woody should have stepped in, or anyone should have stepped in and said, no. That doesn't make sense. We're going to get rid of Saleh, and we're going to have you replace him, but still be the defensive coordinator. How could that possibly make us better?
No. Mid-season, mind you.
Yeah.
Mid-season.
I mean, it absolutely made no sense. I mean, we were screwed either way, no matter what. But that made absolutely no sense. And I'm disappointed in Ulbrich because the fact that he couldn't realize, look, this is not working. Why am I still doing what Salah was doing? Like, why don't I just call the team together in a team meeting and say, I'm the head coach now.
Yeah.
And this is no longer going to be the locker room that it was. It's going to be an Ulbrich locker room, and change it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tough, man. Tough, because he even came out after in the end of year press conferences and said that was a mistake. Well, like, bro, you had 13 games you could just coach. You couldn't tell us that sooner? Like,
Yeah. Well,
man.
and not only that, but like, you're realizing it now. Why did we know that? We knew that. We're not supposed to know things that they don't know. They're supposed to be
Ding,
smarter than
ding.
us. Right?
Ding, ding, ding.
We've been preaching that with the draft for years. Why do we know that this guy's going to be good and you don't? Like, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. It's absolutely just like baffling. And the thing with Brees Hall is, and I feel horrible because it's obviously since the injury, because before the injury, he looked like he was going to be Adrian Peterson. So something happened. That injury's never been the same. But we saw it right away. I said, like, Braylon Allen is better. Every time he came in, he's getting 5 yards a carry. Brees Hall's getting 3 yards a carry. At what
Facts.
point, we needed to win now. At what point do you just strongly say, I don't care what your name is, but
Yeah.
the person that's performing plays?
And Braylon, I'll give him credit, man. I don't think I've ever seen him fall backwards at the end of a run. The dude is always falling forward. Great kid. Great kid.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, speaking of you're a draft guy. What did you think of our draft last year? Because obviously it didn't contribute very much this year, but we obviously had Olu, which we slid back a little, still got. The second round, we had to pay the rest of the Rogers bill, so we didn't get anything there. Third round, we got Corley, didn't get much there. But the second half of the draft, I felt like we got some pieces. Overall, real quick, what did you think of the 2024 draft?
Well, I was certainly okay with the Olu, and I know it wasn't the popular thing, and I know it was kind of like the adult thing, right? Like when you're a kid and your parents are right, but it's still not fun, right? like they're doing the right thing by you. And that's how it kind of felt. It's like, I know that they're doing the right thing, right? And by the way, Olu at the end for a rookie, and people forget that you have to remember rookie. He was very impressive. Like there's a lot to love about the film. There was a lot to love, and the reality that now we need a right tackle, but we don't need a left tackle. Now you feel the benefit of that pick. Because can you imagine? And people say, well, if we took Bowers, we'd have a great tight end. That's true. But I would rather need a tight end, whether it's free agency or draft, than need a left tackle. So I think, and left tackle is a premier position, difficult to fill. Tight end, yes, I would love to have Bowers. I'd love to have a star tight end, but it's just not a difficult position to fill, or not as difficult a position. I don't know why it's been so hard for the Jets as an organization. Maybe because we've never had a great roster and the luxury of using a top pick on a tight end, but the reality is it's just, I'd much rather be in need of tight end than left tackle. I think that's undisputable.
Especially now that we might need a right tackle.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there were several factors that led to me becoming a Jets fan, but one of very many was that our current tight end at the time was from WVU, and obviously I'm a West Virginia guy, Anthony Becht. And even though he wasn't great, he was a gritty tight end, and he was solid for us for a few years. But like you said, man, getting a blind side tackle is super important, man. And
yeah,
if you got to eat those veggies before the dessert later, like you got to do it, man. Always, like, you prioritize that foundation. as
Look,
far as I'm concerned.
with all of our problems, there's some good. We're not the 2020 Jets. There's a lot of good on this. And the good is that if you look at the premium positions, CB1, check. WR1, check. Left tackle, check. Right? Even center, check. Right? Overall, offensive line, 4 out of 5, returning for consistency and continuity, check. Right? Edge, maybe not a superstar, but if he comes back at all what he was, a great edge setter in Jermaine Johnson, and we have a pass rush specialist. So we're not, and then we have at least one solid defensive tackle. So when you look at it from that perspective, it's not just like, we could talk about the holes, quarterback, and all the holes we have on the team, but we have critical positions that are very hard for some teams to filled. So there is a positive in where the Jets are right now.
Honestly, we probably have 10 guys that on the open market would command 20 million. Like,
Yeah.
It's crazy. Like you said, we still need a quarterback and all that. Honestly, I am really high on Tippmann. I think Daniel is too. I think he's going to have a hell of a year, Tippmann.
And he, by the way, gives us the flexibility at any time to move over. So, like in this draft, if we're not happy with right tackle, we're in the 3rd round, but we're in love with a guard. You could take that. You could take that guard. This is one thing. Move AVT out. If you're in love with a center in the 3rd round, love it. Can't find a tackle. Draft that center. Move Tippmann to guard. Move AVT to tackle. I mean, we have the flexibility to do that. And anybody who says you can't move AVT to tackle or get injured, I will not entertain that nonsense. It had nothing to do with what position he was playing. It's just bad luck. He got hurt.
It's just coincidence. Yeah, that's all it is. I mean, so the thing about like, shit, was it? Oh, that's what he was saying. He was saying that we have so many guys that can account for 20+ million on a new contract right now on our roster, right? So that's something I wanted to flip into this. We got some news recently about the salary cap, and it's increasing. Dane, I don't know if you have the numbers off the top of your head. I don't have the numbers off the top of my head.
22 million.
22 to 26.
That's more than I think I remember it going up recently. I just wanted to get your thoughts on that, how it pertains to us, and maybe our approach this offseason, Jeremy.
Well, it's nice, but it's not as nice as you would think. Like if like in the sense that it's like remember that guy ran for president, the Asian guy, and he said, "I'm going to give everybody $1,000 a month."
Oh yeah,
The problem with that is if you give everybody $1,000 a month, inflation, everybody's gonna, like, the rent's gonna go up. Like it's not really gonna feel like $1,000 a month, because now that everybody has $1,000 a month, it's gonna push the markets up, because now everybody can afford more rent and they can afford nicer places, so the rent's gonna go up. So it's the same exact thing. It's like, yeah, it's 20 but everybody's getting it. So if every team is getting it, where do you think it's going? It's going to the players. So the salaries are going to go up, right?
Yeah.
So I do think in the beginning, initially the first year, it could help us in the sense of we could look at that, because I don't know if every position is going to be impacted as hard in it going up. I think the sweet positions like wide receiver 1, they're going to see significant jumps. Quarterbacks always see significant jumps. The tackles are going to see significant jumps. But considering, like, I'm looking at like a safety like Jalen Reed, I think that 22 million, we could just look at it as maybe we get him. Maybe we just get Reed from Kansas City and we have our stud safety, and just that's what we do with that piece of the cap that we gained, and I'd be thrilled with that.
Or that guard they have. I guess that they refused to tag one of their guards, and he might Trey Smith. Sorry, Trey Smith. Give him that money. Okay, go ahead, Daniel.
And again, and move AVT out to tackle, and there you go.
Facts.
There's that versatility you're talking about.
Yep.
But I'm glad that you came in here with some sense, man, because I saw a lot of people being like, "Oh my God, all this money! Oh my God!" It's nothing, man. It's because the best way to look at it when you're talking about cap and stuff like that is you have to evaluate things by percentages rather than
Yes,
just hard
yes,
numbers.
yes,
You
yes.
need to be like, quarterback is 30% of your salary cap if you have, if he's not on a rookie deal. Edges, both your starting edges are going to account for 20% and so on and so forth. I'm not going to sit here and give you a spreadsheet and tell you all the numbers or whatever, but I'm just saying, like, when everybody gets money, then it's all it means is just a pay raise for the players. Like, just like you said, man,
Right.
it's so maybe that first initial year it might help. Maybe it lessens the blow, excuse me, of the dead cap that we're going to have with Aaron Rodgers. Maybe it lessens the blow or whatever, helps out a little bit for a year, but it's not that big of a deal because these contracts are going to go
Yeah,
as they have been.
yeah, yeah.
Just like our grocery prices, they're just going
I
right
mean,
now.
a perfect example of what I just said. I want to get Reed, the safety from Kansas City. The prop, and Kansas City is, because of Mahomes is expensive and they have expensive guys. You're thinking, oh, we might be able to get him. They can't pay Reed. Yes, they can. They just got $22 million in cap space.
Facts.
You know what I'm
Facts.
saying? So,
I honestly, I think the only one that it would help is the people that already have their assets locked up, because
yes,
now they have 20 unaccounted $4 million. But if you don't already have the talent, you got to go outbid other people that just got $20 million along with you.
exactly. It's a bigger advantage for teams like Buffalo, teams like Kansas City, Baltimore, because they're locked into $50 million quarterbacks. They need that 20 million desperately. So, they're getting
Facts.
that 20 million, 22 million, because they were out of money. We are out of the quarterback thing. I mean, we're getting hit a little bit by A-Rod, but not 50 million per year. We're not getting hit by that.
Nope.
So I would say we're in the middle of the pack as far as benefiting. We're not totally screwed. We are getting benefit because we do have a lot of dead cap money, so it is helping us. But I think it just goes back to how we started this originally. We have 31 competitors. If every one of your competitors is getting the same thing, you didn't gain any advantage on your competitors. If you're playing
Facts.
Monopoly and everybody collects $200,
Nobody did.
nothing in the game changed.
No, nobody did.
Nothing. Yeah.
Let me segue this to another topic, because we do have a couple starred comments in the chat that I want to get to, and this will kind of knock out all of them. Let me just throw them up real quick and then ask my question. I have Matthew here that suggests that we trade up for Ward. Yeah, JD, he says, "Do you guys think we are going to trade up? I hope we don't, but can see it happening." And then Boba also says, "Are any of you believing the hype behind the rumors of that crazy package the Jets would be trying to offer to move up to number one?" So, whether you believe it or not, you can tackle that if you want. But more so, I want to ask, is trading up even on the table for you?
No, it's a catastrophic thing to do. It would have to be that, and there's no way to know this, so it means there's no way I would do it. I would have to have some magical crystal ball, and Ward would have to be Mahomes. Like, he wouldn't have to just be a good franchise, a good quarterback. I'd have to know, because what you're saying, what Matthew Smith is saying, is that Cam Ward is generational. Because to give that kind of package, because if he's not generational, a good quarterback is going to fail, because if you give away all those picks, how are you going to put the roster around even a good quarterback and win? So it's like, yeah, okay, even if Cam Ward hits and he's good, oh, he's a really good quarterback. Okay, but we have no first round pick, we have no second round pick. We're going to have holes in the roster. We're going to have $1 million off the garbage heap players in starting positions all over our team, because we're not going to have the resources to allocate to fill in all the spots, because we're missing all of our draft picks. It's catastrophic. And if he doesn't work out and he's a bust, if he's not even a good quarterback, we're talking about 3 to 4 years more of being what we've been.
So to just to rebuttal that a little bit, when you have a stud at quarterback, everybody's better. Like the Commanders went from being dog shit to being like, oh my God, they're in the NFC Championship last year because they hit on a stud quarterback. So I get what you're saying, and I agree. Like I think that deal, the one that was outlined, is about a second round pick too rich for my blood. And I'm not 100% on Cam Ward, even though he is my favorite in the group of quarterbacks coming into this draft.
Mine too.
I just don't know if you take that risk because, like you said, is he generational? To me, he's not.
Well, I
I
mean,
think he's
last
got
year,
all the talent in the world, but there's a lot of other little things that I don't care about. That I don't care for about him, and so I don't know, man. I just think that that deal was too rich. Can we afford it in the situation that we're in now? Probably not. But then again, the Rams didn't have a first or second round pick for like 3 years, and they were nailing on those third and fourth round picks, and they went to a Super Bowl, and they still have a stud team. So I don't
right?
know.
But it's hard to rely on outliers, right? That's an outlier. The Rams are an outlier, and they've done it for
Yeah.
years, right? We
Why
don't have
can't we
that.
be an outlier?
Right. We simply don't have that history. And and so the other thing is what you just said, right? Like Ward is my number one in this year's draft too. In this year's draft. Last year, who would I put Ward above? Would I put him above Daniels? No. Would I put him above Drake May? No. Would I put him above Caleb Williams? No. Would I put him above JJ McCarthy? No. I wouldn't put Ward over Penix. And I'm one of the rare people that actually I'm one of the few people who actually like Penix, right?
I love Penix.
Yeah,
Okay.
So you're talking about we're going to give this trade package to trade up for a guy who last year's quarterback 6 at best, right? He's quarterback 6, or maybe at 5, maybe he's quarterback 4. If you loved him, he's quarterback 4. But if he dropped to us at 7 and our personnel department loves him and takes him, I'm not going to be a baby. I'm not going to scream, kick, and cry about it. I'm going to say, okay, they loved him. Obviously, they loved him. If they use number 7 on him, and if that's the case and they take him, I'm just going to sit there and pray to God that we found our guy.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I honestly, that tweet that came out, like the way it was worded, it would make more sense to me if his source told him that there was a conversation, like that tweet said, but the potential trade package, there is no way his source really heard that part of it. Now, I don't know if that was the guy's suggestion of what the package could look like, but listen, there's no way that kind of stuff is getting leaked in mid-February. There's just not. So
that's the kind of package that somebody might get next year. If you have a team that has their quarterback and has the first pick next year, that's the kind of package you might see. Because it's going to be someone like Drew Aller or Arch Manning or whoever, pick the one that you love. Newsbaum or whatever his name is from LSU, whoever your guy is.
Let me ask you, speaking of Penn State, you just mentioned Aller. We just talked about Olu, another polarizing Nittany Lion we got to talk about, and that is Tyler Warren. Thoughts on him at 7, and then maybe thoughts on him at like 12?
I would much obviously rather trade back to get Warren at 12 or 14 or 15 or whatever. I understand that it just might not be in the cards. Like there might not be any trade partner, right? There might not be anyone that anybody wants to trade up for. And that makes 7 an interesting pick because I think there's a good chance no matter who we pick at 7, it's not going to be a guy in other years that was worthy of a 7. So if they just decide that Tyler Warren is the guy that they love, he's not the guy I would. It depends on who's available. He's not one of the guys I would take only because there's a lot of tight ends I like that I believe we can get in the second round. I think it's just that there's a little bit more depth there. So I'm more the wide receiver because I don't think there's the depth there. So if McMillan is there, I'm like 100% we have to take him. But but at the same time, I don't feel so strongly about it that I'm going to be cursing and screaming and saying they're stupid and be upset. You add Tyler Warren to there's a good chance I believe because he's a very well-rounded tight end that his floor is very high. Because worst case scenario, you're getting a really good athlete who can block really well and is going to, be a decent enough receiver. That's his floor. his ceiling, he's going to be a game-changing tight end, right? So, and
That's
you're going
right.
to have like a Pro Bowl tight end for the next 5 to 10 years. So I'm not going to cry and scream about it. It's just, this is just the reality of the draft we're living in.
Yeah, you can love the prospect, but not exactly like where our draft position is for that prospect. You know what I mean? Like we don't control that we're the fact that we're at 7 right now, but we can still love the prospects. Like I do love Tyler Warren as a prospect. I think he's a very solid all around tight end. I'm not crazy about taking a tight end in the top 12 of the draft, almost any draft.
Yeah.
I think the only draft I've ever saw a tight end where I was like, yeah, that guy is generational, draft him ASAP, and that was Kyle Pitts, and he's been underutilized in Atlanta for years. I still think that he's a stud, but and even his underutilized years, he's still 800 to 1,000 yards every year.
Sure.
So I don't think Tyler Warren is quite at that level. I don't. So, like you said, in a perfect world, it would be trading back, to 12 or 15 or something and getting them.
Sure.
But we all know that you have to have a suitor for that, right? And it has to work.
Yeah, you need a trade partner. You have to have the trade partner. If you don't have the trade partner, you can't do it. So what are you going to do? There's also, by the way, because of the Bauer boys and all the controversy and shit that went on last year, because of that, there's an incredible irony. If we were to take Tyler Warren with the 7th pick, that's incredibly ironic because
It is.
a year ago, half our fan base was passionately fighting that you can't take a tight end at 7, even if it's this guy Bowers, even if he's this generational tight end. And then the next year we take a tight end at 7, it would be very, very ironic.
Hey,
It would.
the only scapegoat that you have there is that you got a whole new front office and coach and stuff like that, and you can say, "Hey, that's their viewpoint," I mean, whatever. So we wanted to go over a lot of the prospects with you, Jeremy, because we know that you've been at least elbow deep into the draft so far, and you've been looking into some of these guys and stuff. So since we're already on Tyler Warren, right? We mentioned Tyler at 7 or Tyler at 12. And also, we had talked about Cam Ward earlier and the potential trade up for him. What do you think about trading up for a non-quarterback, another guy from Penn State named Abdul Carter? Let's say he drops to 2 or 3, and you can trade up to there. What do you feel about that?
I would love Abdul. I mean, I believe he is one of the very few players in this draft that isn't a disappointment. Like we're saying it's a bottom heavy draft. Unfortunately, it's not a top heavy draft, but Abdul Carter is an exception to that statement, right? I mean, Travis Hunter or whatever, and Abdul Carter are huge exceptions to that. I mean, these guys would be elite top 5 picks no matter what year it is. The problem I have with it, as much as don't get me wrong, the part about getting Abdul Carter, I'd be rolling around in, I don't know, like just on the floor, just screaming in tears of joy because I love him. I love the prospect. I mean, I watch, obviously, I'm sure you guys too, with the way you're talking. Like, I'm a big Penn State guy. I really like Penn State. I grew up, I grew up on the East, like all of us, Northeast, right? Penn State was a super popular team for all of us that lived in the Northeast. I think the world of him as a player. I just can't get my arms around the pain it would cause us as far as losing the picks, especially in a draft where I think there are going to be, first of all, it's a very deep draft in edge, by the way, a very deep draft. This is probably the deepest draft for edge, maybe since I've started getting really this deep into it. Like I mean, it's really there's an incredible bag of a list of edges out there, but it's just really hard in a bottom heavy draft where there's going to be positions we need available to give away those picks and not be able to find a good day one starting defensive tackle, tight end, all the other positions that we'd have to sacrifice.
It really is hard to grasp the idea of unloading more picks because, I mean, think about it. We got 7, we got 42, and then we got to wait 50 picks for another one. We just burned a second rounder on A-Rod last year. We're getting nothing out of Corley. Like, as good as that 2022 draft was, we can't keep this up where we're not getting anything out of our premium pick. We got to keep doing well. And that's why, like, I think you're like me, where you're like, if there's not a home run at 7 and anyone calls, you're probably going to try to slide if you give the, if you get the opportunity.
Yeah,
Because I mean, I'm looking at next year. I don't know about you.
yeah, no, I'm definitely looking at next year. But like the reality is, if we were in a situation where it wasn't a bottom heavy draft, it was a top heavy draft, right? And the positions of our need positions there weren't in this draft, I might feel differently. But the stars are actually in some ways aligning very nicely for us. It's not working out so well with the number 7 pick right now. That doesn't look like a great thing. But the thing that is aligning for us is that some of our biggest needs in position are there. Like, it's the deepest defensive tackle. It's the deepest draft, I could say maybe of this century. Like, I
Good
don't know
point.
if I've ever seen a draft or known of a draft where there's this many defensive tackles that are going to be potential day one starting guys. They're not
That's
all
a
going to
good
hit.
point.
But I mean, and the fact that that's a need for us is a great thing. Now, tight end, I'm not saying it's the greatest draft in the world for tight end, but there's certainly tight ends in the second that are going to be in the second or the third rounds that are well-rounded good guys. I mean, like Ferguson from Oregon is an example of a guy I really
Yeah.
like. The guy from Miami, Miami, Arroyo. These are third, fourth round tight ends that might end up being the best of the class, just like Kelsey was and Kittle was. These guys all could potentially be that future tight end.
You got wide receiver. I think that's deep as well, isn't it?
It's not I mean, I think it's okay for getting decent wide receivers. Like, I mean, good shots, but not for surefire hits. There's only 2 wide receivers I feel really confident. There's ones I like. There's a bunch of receivers I like, but the only 2 I feel very passionate about is McMillan and Ibuka.
Yes.
Ibuka. I think there are other ones I like. I like both kids
Right.
I like both kids from Iowa. I like both of those guys. I think Tez is the kind of guy that needs to be on a team like the Chiefs, and he's going to be very dangerous. If he goes to the Chiefs, he's going to be a nightmare for
Yes,
the
he
rest
is.
of the league. So I think there are guys, but not like defensive tackle, like nothing like defensive tackle, nothing like edge.
That's a good point. You
know?
think I would like to think that Joe Douglas planned for that. I can't say that for sure, nor does it matter. But let me segue to a question from the chat we have from our buddy Dom C.
Yeah.
And a plug, I want to plug that we'll have Dom on next week. He wants to ask you, what are your thoughts on Miles Frazier?
So Dom discovered him first. Dom called me up once. We were talking, or we're just, forgot what medium we were using. And he says to me, I got a guy and this was before the Senior Bowl. So I got a guy who's ranked, like, at the time, I think he was ranked 180, 190, maybe even less. Nobody cared about this guy. Right. He goes, but he's you remember last year there was a Frazier that we all liked and he turned out to be really good. He said we got another Frazier to be in love with. Yeah, I think it was Zach Frazier. So we got together and we watched film together on him. And this was before the Senior Bowl, and he totally sold me on him. And Dom's biggest dilemma, Dom C, was like, Jeremy, I want to just take the next step as a prospector and say, screw what every expert says. He's a top 50 player to me.
That's cool.
I said, of course, do it.
Yeah.
I said, do it. If you believe it, do it. Because how do we know how many scouts out there and how many teams are just going with the hype? They just look at the list and they're afraid to just do it.
They rubber stamp all the time. Right? Rubber stamp it.
Just do it. And we went to the Senior Bowl, and here's the craziest thing. So we go to the Senior Bowl. He's there. He's our guy, right? He's the guy we like. And it was like you couldn't write it any better in a book. He literally won like the award for best offensive lineman like for that whole position group for the week. Like, he was amazing. He didn't lose a rep, one-on-ones, scrimmages, everything he was doing. We're watching him. and this is against now other elite players
Yeah.
against in a year where a lot of these edges are future NFL edges, right? He's going against these crazy guys, Mike Green, Landon Jackson, like all these really good tackles, right? There's all these great tackles that are coming out in the draft that are there at the Senior Bowl, and he's holding his own. And
Toast to the town.
Then by the third day, we find out after the second day, on the third day, they're going to try him out at tackle. And they move him out to tackle, and he's awesome there. He doesn't lose a rep at tackle.
That.
And it was like a dream come true for Dom. Dom and me, he brought me into it. Thank you, Dom C, for bringing me into this magic. It was like the highlight of our week to watch a guy that we liked, that nobody cared about or knew about, and watched him rise to this level of everybody knows him now. And now we have to worry that he won't even be there in the third round.
Yeah, that's cool though, because like I don't know, man. I always in my heart like I wish Dom had a job for a franchise, and like that's like a scenario of the GM asking you like, who's the guy, and that's just it played out just like a movie would have it play
and let
out.
me tell you
That's
something.
cool.
Dom is smart in every position because he watches film and he got trained.
Yes.
So he's trained and he watches. The most important thing, and Dom C will tell you, he goes, I'll respect anybody's take if you're watching film. Like if you're not just going by what you read on Draft Buzz, but you're actually watching film. But I'll tell you, I don't want to, and this is not to like say that he can't do other positions, but his specialty, like where he excels, where like it is offensive line, defensive line, specifically the interiors, like the tackles and the guards and the offensive tackles. He is like, that's if I owned a franchise, I wouldn't do scouts regionally. I would do scouts by position. And Dom C would literally be the guy in my franchise that built the offensive line. That would be his responsibility.
Yeah.
Good vote of confidence.
I want to say, Dane, you said that you, in your heart, you would love to see Dom C working with a team, right? Well, I gotta say that I do not want to see Dom C working with a team unless it's the New York Jets, damn it. that's who it needs to be. Okay. Yeah. Our guy Dom, he knows his stuff. We'll
Chaos, how long? I'm sorry, man. I just looked at the clock. How long do we have you for, brother?
I could stay till at least another. What time is it your time? It's 10:11 your time.
Okay. Oh, dude, that's excellent, because I was just gonna throw out Shedeur Sanders and Jackson Dart, and I'm like, oh my god, we could talk for a half hour on these guys, but maybe just gloss over both. I know the chat is fired up over Dart. They've been hammering the questions about Dart, but I want to know what you think of Shedeur Sanders in whatever order you want. Can you give us maybe your view of both of them?
It's funny because Sanders is the opposite of Dart, in my opinion. You know what I mean? Like, in other words, Dart has all this natural talent because his mechanics suck, right? And my concern is that he's not. I have a question about how hard of a worker he is, because how could a guy that's gone this far in college still not have better mechanics? Like, is he really willing to put in the work? And the funny, interesting thing is, the way I feel about Sanders is the exact opposite. He's probably the hardest working player in the draft, because mechanically, you could tell this guy must throw 1,000 balls a day. He must constantly work on his mechanics, because every throw mechanically is beautiful, right? So, so they're totally the opposite to me. I have concerns about both of them for those same reasons, because part of me I don't believe you can manufacture yourself into a quarterback. You can get the perfect mechanics and the perfect throw, but I believe so much of it is a natural instinct and like football IQ, and like it's a magical thing which it's impossible to measure, which is why it's so hard to prospect quarterbacks, right? Because there's this thing you can't measure of, are you going to be able to process and slow the game down at the NFL level? My concern about Sanders, and I know Dom C does not agree with this, but not that he's high on him, because I think Sanders would be his QB7 last year. But I like Ward better than Sanders, and he likes Sanders better than Ward. My concern with Sanders is he holds on to the ball a really long time. Like, and it might be that nobody's open, but he had Hunter on the team, right? So it's not like he didn't have good athletes. I feel like he holds the ball for a really long time. There are things I really like about him, don't get me wrong. But I think that in the NFL, he's not the mobile quarterback Ward is. He holds on to the ball a long time. That could spell disaster, right? Because he's not going to be able to escape. He escapes in college because he's bigger and physically stronger. He's not going to escape against NFL linebackers and edges or tackles. He's just not. So once they get their hands on him, he's done. So I'm concerned about him. Any of these guys, by the way, could be stars that I'm talking about, because that's my rule. I'll never say a quarterback cannot end up being a star. I'm only saying my confidence level in what evidence has been provided to me. Dart is a guy who it boggles my mind how he accomplishes what he accomplishes when you watch him throw the football. Because like, I am not an expert. I am not a guy who understands mechanics in a quarterback. I just know enough that when I was a teacher of fifth graders, I was able to teach them, you teach a little kid how to throw a football. And that knowledge enough is me to look at Dart and be like, ouch. You know what I mean? And I know I'm not the only one, because when I sat at the Senior Bowl in the bleachers, it wasn't just Dom. There was one point where I was sitting like next to like 8 guys. There were Cowboy content guys. There were like all these different teams. And every time they were laughing at Dart. They were cracking up. They said, how the hell? And they were saying like, how the hell is he doing it? Because like he'd make a good pass 35 yards up the middle, but they were laughing at his mechanics and saying it's so bad. And it's like, can a guy have success at the NFL level with mechanics? I'm not talking about Josh Allen's problem with mechanics. This is at a different level. You know what I mean? Like you watch the little kick in his leg after he throws the ball. It's painful to watch. So I have concerns about Dart, but I also think he's a super tough kid. There's some traits that he has that I really like. And as long as we don't use a first round pick on him, if they somehow in the second round decided to take him, it's not the pick I would make. But again, I wouldn't be screaming and cursing. Part of me would be hoping maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe he's going to be that outlier we're talking about. Maybe he's going to be that guy that doesn't look pretty doing it, but gets the ball there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and we've seen, like, we've all said this for years. Quarterback is, out of every position, is the biggest crapshoot in the draft. It's so hard to figure out who's going to hit and who's not going to hit. And we've seen guys from both perspectives of, like, let's say like the Sanders type guys and the Dart type guys. We've seen both of those types of guys like succeed in the NFL. Like, I mean, Aaron Rodgers is not the most mechanically sound quarterback. I've never seen a guy throw off his back foot more than Aaron Rodgers does, but he's got the arm, he's got the accuracy, he makes it work, man. Yeah. It may not be pretty whenever he's releasing and he's leaning back, and but 40 yards down the field, Devontae's right in the breadbasket, and so. And then we've seen other guys that are mechanically sound, and maybe they don't have the most live arm or whatever, but they're pinpoint accurate and they get the ball out quick, which you said Sanders doesn't seem to do so, but maybe it'll change. Who knows?
Right.
But you got guys like Drew Brees and stuff, guys that are just like snap the ball, read, boom, and it's just like mechanically sound, man. It's just perfect. We've seen both those types of quarterbacks work. So like quarterback is the biggest crapshoot, man.
Yeah. Yes.
It's so hard to choose, and that's why it makes you even lean, like how you were like, I don't know about moving up in the draft. I get that perspective, because it's like, do you want to give up your top assets both this draft and next for a guy that you have no freaking clue is going to work? You know?
Yeah. In a bottom heavy draft, when you have a roster filled with holes.
Yeah.
We have a roster filled with holes.
Facts. You know what? And the one thing I will say that kind of does pertain to both those quarterback prospects is that I think that they would both benefit from not being overdrafted. And it's a shame, because like Sanders is going to go top 2 and he's going to be thrust into becoming the guy. And could you imagine if he had a year to sit or 2 years to sit behind a Rodgers like Love had? Same with Dart. Like, people are talking about taking him at 7. Like, get the hell out of here, man. That guy should be he should be drafted, in my opinion, on Saturday. Maybe Friday. But what I'm saying is it behooves him to be.
I mean,
Am I wrong?
Dart needs a year to work on mechanics. I think Sanders needs a year to work on speed, the speed of the game, right? Because if he's already struggling in college and he's holding on to the ball too long, I mean, he's going to jump up and play in the NFL. NFL is 2.5 seconds. Like, and
Facts.
if you count off the rushes, when I watch his film and they snap the ball to him, I'm 1 rush, 2 rush, 3 rush, throw the fucking ball 4. You know what I
Yes,
mean? He's not
yes.
throwing the ball.
And I think it was your breakdown I was watching where you said that he wasn't often getting to his third and fourth progression, maybe because he didn't need to. I don't know, but like it was more 1 or 2 reads and go. So a year to sit, I think, would help.
Right.
But I
Also,
don't think we'll
also,
have the luxury.
also, one of the things I want to see him do, I'm not saying he can't do it, but one of the things I would like to see him do, and that's the whole thing about evidence. I like evidence that quarterbacks can do things. Is I don't see Sanders throw the ball at different speeds very much. Like it feels like all of his throws, all of his balls are like this, like similar velocity, similar like their line drive. I mean, he torches it because of his mechanics. He whips the ball around, but I haven't
Right.
seen him drop any touch passes, or not many. I haven't seen him from the pocket drop, vertical passes down the sideline. So I mean, you got the whole route tree that Tony the GM is always going off about, right? I don't see. If you look at Sanders, if you watch his film, you don't see him really filling that route tree and proving. Not saying he can't, but he's not. There's no evidence that he can do it, and that's scary.
Facts.
Yeah, that's a good point. I actually I didn't think about that, but all the throws that I've seen of Sanders, and I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I've watched all his collegiate games or anything like that.
Right.
But I've watched quite a few throw tapes of him, and it seems like it's the same thing, like same type of ball every time. And in the
Yep.
NFL, you got to learn how to put touch on it when it needs it. You have to learn how to zing it in there when it needs it, and you need to learn how to kind of in the middle, sometimes too. But what you were kind of touching on earlier, I just wanted to touch on too. I think every quarterback, with maybe an exception of one or something, I think especially all the top quarterbacks in this draft, every one of those guys need to sit at least a year. I think
This
all
year,
of them have something that need to be worked on before they try it in the NFL level. And I'm a big believer in sitting your quarterback anyway for at least a year, but especially this draft class. Like I think the only guy that I have like some kind of, and I don't know why, I just have a little bit of confidence in for whatever reason, and he's not an early guy. Will Howard, I feel like is like the most NFL ready to me. Like if you started him week 1, he wouldn't be completely over his head. But and that's kind of one of my guys. But maybe I'm just a little bit of a homer about it. I think all those guys, Sanders, Ward, Dart, all those top guys need to sit, man, for real.
I think that typically most quarterbacks should sit a year, and that was a part of football that's changed for the worse. Is that because of the price of quarterbacks and wanting to get them developed to keep, so you could have them on the cheap when they get good, it puts this pressure for the team to get the quarterback on the field and get them experienced and good. But I think it does a lot of damage, because seeing the ghost is a real thing. Confidence is a real thing. When you're a 21, 22-year-old and you get beat up and maligned and the fans are booing you and you feel you can't do it, that affects you. It's not easy to come back from that,
It does. It really does. Sticking with the quarterbacks, I know we can keep going draft and we can circle back to it, but since we are talking quarterbacks so heavily, we did get your thoughts on whether we should go high on quarterback next year. I think that most of the rational Jet fans know that we're going to be targeting a quarterback next year. But let me ask you this. You're the GM of the Jets. What are you doing at quarterback for this year?
It's a really good question. I don't. They may have done this, but I know I would have, and it may have happened, and we'll probably never know. When the talks with Aaron Rodgers took place, I hope the Jets did this, because what I would have done is I would have said, "Look, I want you back, but under 2 major conditions. One is you got to help us with the salary, so you don't crush us in the future. You've got to restructure." right? And you got to give money back. And if you don't want to do that, that's fine. Go play somewhere else. Best of luck. I understand. We have no right to ask you to take less money. I'm just telling you honestly what I need you to do to keep you in this organization, right? Just being honest. Number two thing, you're a soldier on this team like every other one. Like, and I'm not, again, we want you to be a leader the way any veteran would be a leader, but it's Aaron Glenn's locker room. It's the coach's locker room. Like, so we cannot have a divide. You like, if players come to you because they don't like something we say, we need you to send them back to us. We need you to say, go back to your coach. Don't come to me. I don't run this team. They do. And if you could be that kind of leader, then that would have been my choice. And getting that Aaron Rodgers back for one more year. The way it stands now, I think Fields is going to be too expensive. I don't think he's a long-term answer anyway. I don't know. You want to go with Tyrod Taylor and bring in a guy like Jameis Winston? You want to go make a trade? Maybe they bring in a guy like, he's in Seattle now, depending on how much they like him, Sam Howell, who actually had not a horrible rookie year and never got a chance again because he got pushed out of Washington.
Matt Stafford, Kirk Cousins.
If they're affordable, I mean, if Derek Carr was released and we can get him, like people are saying, you can get Derek Carr for 1.5 million. It's a no-brainer for me. Just get, because I understand this is not our future quarterback. It's a bridge quarterback. We're not winning a Super Bowl. So I'm not sitting here saying this quarterback is going to change our fortune, but give us a chance to compete next year. Give us a chance where if everybody does their job and things go perfectly, we could maybe steal and make a playoff. Get a playoff spot. Derek Carr, Kirk Cousins, if you give an affordable price where we don't kill our future, hell yeah.
For me, that's it. It's not your talent. It's not your price. It's your price in correlation to your talent. Like I need bang for my buck in 2025. I know last week we had a caller that was real high on Tyson Bagent. I don't know if you know much about him, but if you do, I'd love to hear your thoughts on him. But Jameis is kind of where I'm kind of going. I like Tyrod, but I need a little insurance because I don't know about Jordan Travis, man. My hope for him is QB2 down the road. But you give me like a Tyrod Jameis, I think I could get behind that because also they're two hell of a guys, good for culture, setting a new foundation. But yeah, what do you know Teabag? And
not enough to talk on him. That would be more Dom C next week.
Fair.
He was
Daniel.
He
what
was
do you
fun
think?
to watch with the Bears for that the brief amount of time that he was in there, and he's got like the cool tattoos, and his dad is like a professional arm wrestler, which is like the coolest. Like if you could like talk to the other kids at school and be like, what's your dad do? My dad's an astronaut. Well, you're lame because my dad's a professional arm wrestler, but no, that's aside from that. I mean, what is Bagent? We don't really know. He played a few games for the Bears and it was kind of fun, but it was like not spectacular either. If you're looking at guys like Jeremy, are you looking more for an insurance guy behind Tyrod or to compete with Tyrod, or are you looking more for like somebody like that can take the reins and just go?
I mean, I would if it didn't hurt us salary wise, I definitely wouldn't mind Kirk Cousins would be my number one choice because not that I mean he might not have any gas left in the tank. I don't know that he does, but just the chance that he might gives us the hope. Like if it was just Atlanta, because I mean, let's face it, since Matt Ryan left, even Matt Ryan's last year at Atlanta, who's been good in Atlanta, right? So, so maybe it's just freaking Atlanta. Maybe that's the problem, right? So he was 2 years ago. He looked really good in Minnesota. So, I mean, if he's on the cheap, Kirk Cousins would be my number one choice because he might be nothing. He might be what he was this year and struggle and on his way down and fine. It's a bridge year. We know that we don't have, then we go with Tyrod Taylor and we hope he stays healthy and it is what it is. But man, if Kirk Cousins comes out and throws for 3,800 to 4,000 yards, 25 touchdowns, gives us what Aaron Rodgers gave us last year, but with better coaching and a kicker who kicks field goals, and maybe we sneak into the wild card.
And no dead money. Yeah.
And on a $2 million vet minimum contract or something. Yeah. I mean, I'm all aboard the Kirk Cousins train. I caught a little bit of flack for this a week or two ago. There's a lot of guys that think Kirk Cousins is cooked and stuff like that. Well, all I have to say to that is we have an insurance policy with Tyrod Taylor, and we don't have anything like we're not dedicated. If we bring Kirk Cousins in, we're not dedicated to him. If he's booty cheeks for 3 weeks, we can bench his ass. Who cares? He's here for 1 year. It doesn't matter. We're not Atlanta that just gave him a 5-year contract and said, "Oh, he's the future of our team," and then we draft a quarterback in the 8th. That's not how it works. It's not like that for us. So
I think
I'm all about it.
And I think the reason people care freaks me out about how much people care about who that quarterback is, that surprises me. So I don't know about you guys, but it's probably the Pittsburgh game, but around week 8 last year, I didn't only go into mourning for the 24 season. I knew that the 25 season was over too. It was like my depression and my ripping the banners from behind me down and not putting them up again yet was not just because 24 was a lost season. Because in my heart, I knew it was over. We're going to have to retool. I knew it. I knew 25 was done. Right. And the best we could hope for now for 25 is a guy like Kirk Cousins or Derek Carr comes in, gives us more than we expected, and Aaron Glenn just is spectacular and changes the whole culture of the locker room, and everybody is fired up and plays hard, and we're just a hungry team, and magically we pull it off and we win 9 games or 10 games and we get a wild card spot, and that would be a beautiful thing.
In 5 words or less, would you sign up for a QB room of Tyrod, Jordan Travis, and Mike White?
I wouldn't be thrilled.
Fair. Hey, let me ask you this. When you hear the news break that the Jets have extended Garrett Wilson, I want both your answers on this. When you hear the news break, what do you think the figures will be?
Oof. Oh, he's going to be.
And mind you that Quinnen didn't even get the 3 figures from us. Is this the one that does?
Yeah, he's going to cost if especially because he's not thrilled right now. He might be happy Rodgers is gone. I don't know. That's all hearsay. But I mean, I'm thinking you're looking at a 5-6 year contract, $32 million per year. So total 190, 100 million guaranteed, 110 guaranteed. It's going to be a mega contract. And people will say, why? His numbers aren't that elite. When you look at the situation he's been playing under, over the past 3 years in this team, and consider the fact that he has over 1,000 yards in all 3 seasons in spite of the crap he's been part of.
Facts.
You have to make, it sucks that it's not 100% proven, but I refuse to believe that on a well-coached offense in the right situation, he's not a 1,400 to 1,600 yard, 10 touchdown a season receiver, easy.
Yeah, I do. Daniel, what do you think? Is it the first $100 million deal that the Jets? I don't even remember the last time we had a $100 million deal, but is it the one?
I mean, I feel like it is, because unless we're giving him a 2 or a 3 year deal, which would he even take a 2 or a 3 year? Wouldn't he want a 4 or 5? I don't know. If it's what I'm assuming, a 4-year deal, that's the basic contract. After your rookie year, everybody signs a 4-year contract, it seems like. If it's a 4-year contract, yes, for sure. I did a quick little Google search here. Tells me that there are 6 wide receivers in the NFL that currently make $30 million or more per year APY. And the number you threw out there, Jeremy, was $32 million. There are 3 wide receivers: Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb, and AJ Brown, that make $32 or more per year. I don't know if Garrett's getting that high. I don't even know if he's going to quite break the 30 mark, but he's at the very least hitting that 25 mark. So if it's 25 at APY for 4 years, that's 100 mil. So I think he's breaking it.
He'll get there. Yeah.
That would be, I mean, that would be, if we got him for that price, it would be a bargain to me. Like I would be jumping for that. One of the reasons why I'm putting him at 32 million is not because I'm putting him in with those top 3 receivers. It's because of inflation. Everybody just got another 22 million. The salaries always seem to go up.
Facts.
He's not that happy. So to get him to lock into our organization without any proof we're going to turn it around, I think he has enough confidence to say, no, I'm just going to wait until I'm able to get out of here and I'll just do it somewhere else. You know,
I think it's a mistake if you let T. Higgins go sign a deal before you negotiate with Garrett.
Oh yeah, big mistake.
Yeah.
Big
And
So
mistake.
Jalen Waddle is at 28.3, and I think that's around. Like I think you're going to have Garrett or maybe slightly above that due to inflation.
That's fair.
So I think 29 to 30 in that range.
That's fair. I just think the reason I think so high is not because I'm not happy about it. It's because I think like because I don't trust the media in anything, but if it's true, if he's not happy or he's frustrated, we're gonna have to pay a penalty for that. You know? We're gonna have to make it such a rich deal that he forgets about the fact that he's not so happy.
especially if you're telling him, hey, the next year or two, you're still not going to win. Then, and like, he's not dumb. He's not going to let you just backload that deal and then eventually just he's gone. I don't know, man. It's frustrating because you see guys like Jermaine that are, and I'm sure you've seen some of his tweets lately. He is all in Gotham, man. He is a jet to the core, and I don't know. Maybe it has something to do with he got injured, and he feels like he let us down. Now he feels like he owes us one, but like that's quickly becoming my favorite player on this team.
He's also a second chance university player from that. Remember, so there's a possibility that when you go through that and you have difficulties in your life and everything, you tend to really lock on to the people who believe in you. And the fact that we traded up and drafted him.
Facts. I have high hopes for that guy. Okay, let me ask you this, and Daniel, if you have a question, you can hop right in. I was just thinking, like, we're not going to have a ton of resources this year. Maybe, like, we're not going to make splash deals, is what I'm saying. Not a lot of premium free agents coming here this year. Maybe a couple premium draftees, but like knowing that you only have one or two premium pieces, would you rather add it to the D-line room, making that a borderline elite room? Would you rather add it to the secondary, making that a borderline elite room? Would you rather just strengthen our weaknesses? Like, because I'm a big proponent of strengthening strengths. I feel like that's how you can literally win games that you're not even supposed to win. Where are you? And Daniel, I want to hear from you too. Where are you guys at with that? Like, since we're not going to have the ability to plug all our holes, should we just focus on strengthening strengths? And maybe how does that, like, is there a free agent that you think could make our D line overwhelming, or a DB, or a draft pick at 7 that you think that would be wise to do? And maybe we can get to 6 to 10 wins this year.
I think that I would expect, based on who our defensive coordinator is now, and if you look at what he's done in other teams and the system he runs, my expectation is we're going to invest very heavily in the safety position, in the safety room. And we're going to take our cornerback 2 very seriously. And I don't know if we'll do it all in 1 year. We might go with Stigler, Eccles, Bernard Converse and give them a chance. But if they don't pan out, he's going to fix it. But I expect the secondary, starting in the safety room, to be the primary focus, because unlike Salah, this guy is not about get there with 4, keep everybody back. This guy likes to change it up. He likes to shift guys around. He likes to blitz, give different looks. And to make for that style of defense to work, you got to have good safeties.
Yeah, I'm
Interesting.
sick of us not investing much assets in safety. So I'm with you there, Jeremy. I think that we got to at least get one stud safety, one ball hawk back there. You know what I mean? Like you mentioned Justin Reed from Kansas City. I'm fine with that, or Javon Holland from Miami. You know, there's some guys in this free
Yeah.
agency, or maybe you draft a guy. I don't know. But my big thing is, Dane, you were talking about should we invest in strengths to have a position that's overwhelming the other team or whatever it may be. I think that you don't think so much about whether we're investing in strengths or holes or whatever. I think you just have to add talent to the team. And if that talent adds on to more talent that you already have on the team, so be it, right? You just keep adding talent to the team because eventually the team is just going to be so damn stocked full of good talent that you're going to be forced to be reckoned with. You know, the plugging holes things, like that's more for free agency in my opinion anyway. Um,
Good answer.
but regardless, I think that like when it comes to especially to the draft, it's just best player available, and even in free agency, like if you're like, well, you know, we got a couple like decent depth pieces and Sauce Gardner at safety or at cornerback, so we don't really need a cornerback. If there's a stud out there in free agency, pick him up, dude. I don't care.
Yeah.
Like you just add talent to the team, man. That's if you got a guy that you know is going to plug into your system and perform well, and he fits the culture, bring him in. That's the way I look at it.
Specifically, that I agree 100%. Specifically with the draft, you know, like free agency, you could look at position, right? But draft, the number one thing is to hit. Whoever you take, whatever position, whatever your justification is, nothing is more important than just hit. Be right about the player.
Here's a question from Barney Miller in the chat. What are we Jet fans going to be talking about a year from now? Any takers for that one?
There's no question we're going to be talking about the draft and the quarterback and are we trading up? And you think it's Matthew Smith is like the one person, the lone crusader, and one guy who started the rumor about trading up for Ward. Can you imagine what it's going to be like next year when there's three, at least there's going to be a lot, but three premier quarterbacks that we're all jumping up and down for?
True.
And we're picking at wherever we're picking, even if it's 10, even if it's 12, wherever we're picking, all we're going to be talking about is how do we get up and get one of those top three guys that we love.
And why did we win that game week 18?
Absolutely.
That'll suck.
What we do best. I don't care about those last minute wins. Like I just like seeing our team win. So I really don't care. When we do that type of stuff, so be it. I love seeing Bill Belichick. Bye. Bye on a loss, buddy. You'll never coach in the NFL again. Go to college. You know, that's where you pick up your new girlfriends, apparently, anyway. So, so I have no problem with that because we can always figure out a way to trade up. Like there's a way. You can offer enough draft capital. If there's a guy that you just have to have, you can figure it out.
That's why my trade down dream for this year wouldn't just be a second round pick. It would be something for next year that we could use as ammunition to trade up.
Yeah, like we did last year. Sorry, having a difficulty. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're good, man.
Yeah, dude, my bad. Like we did last year, though. We turned a 4 into a 3. If we could do that this year, like slide at 7, and even if you can't get, well, maybe you get something this year, but having something next year is double good.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, to me, it's, don't get me wrong. I never not care. I want to win every year, you know, and I never want people to misunderstand that. But I am so tired of not having. I mean, I've been a fan for over 40 years, and the only time we've ever had quarterbacks that look like they could be franchise quarterbacks, they've gotten hurt. The same injury: Ken O'Brien, Pennington, rotator cuff. So I've never gotten to have I've never watched this team in over 40 years have a franchise quarterback, a real guy that goes over 10 years, all pro. Like the guy. Never in my life. And as much as I want to win as many games as we can win with what we have in 25. All I'm thinking of is please end that for me. In 2026, there's good quarterbacks coming out. Please get me one of these quarterbacks and please let it work out.
Yeah. Hey, and I agree wholeheartedly with you about the extra capital next year. To me, is worth more than this year. And normally they say it's the other way around. Normally they say, it's more value if you get the capital this year rather than next. I don't agree with that this year, because I think that next year's draft, like especially quarterback draft class, is hot and heavy, buddy. So, and more than likely we're going to be looking next year.
Yeah.
I hate to just say that a season is a wash or anything like that, because you never know what can happen. But this season is more than likely not going to be a Super Bowl season for us, guys. I hate to be the first person here to break it to you, but if we're not winning a Super Bowl this year, how about we just get that draft capital for next year, so that way we can hopefully get our Jaden Daniels stud type quarterback, and then cook. Hopefully.
Facts. A couple off-topic questions, Jeremy, that I starred in the chat I want to get to before I forget. The first is whether or not you are losing weight. Scott says that your face is looking rather sexy and slender.
Since last August, I have lost 54 pounds.
54 pounds.
Wow.
Holy moly. That's
Thank you.
awesome, dude.
I'm very happy that he's caught that. So that's nice to know that it's like you could actually see it just from the top half of me. So
yeah, I was just
thought
gonna
it was
say
the goatee that was radiating all the sexiness. I was like, this is the first goatee Jeremy I've seen.
This is definitely the longest I've ever grown it, for sure.
This is the longest for me as well. So there's something in the water, I guess.
I just bought a comb for it, and it was all knotty, but now it's getting nice and soft and everything.
Dude, that's key too, because mine was like an SOS pad for a long time.
Oh yeah, I was getting tired of it, and Green Bean told me, he goes, buy a beard comb, man. Like, dude. So I got one, and at first it hurt. I was like, ow, and then I combed it all, but I combed it all out, and yeah, I love it. Now it's nice and soft.
Yeah. Hey, combing, and if you want to go that extra step, beard oil really does do wonders.
Okay.
And not just for your beard, but like your face looks better too. Like you don't get dried out or anything like that, because you kind of just apply it all up under the beard and around the cheeks and stuff. And that stuff really kind of gives it a nice little volume. And I mean, I don't want to get too intricate with the details here, but I'm just saying the beard oil is a game changer. You get a beard comb and a beard oil, and that thing will be looking nice.
I will definitely. I'm going to go on Amazon as soon as we're off this call and order some for sure.
Hey, or if you do Manscaped, I know Green Bean has, or someone has a code for that. But anyways, Scott has one more question for you. He wants to know if you're going to be doing any more film breakdowns, because he likes the way you do it. He says you broke down an entire game for a player rather than just the highlight film. I'm assuming he means all 22. Talk a little bit about that.
What's difficult about it is I keep getting flagged for it. Even when and I don't care about the money. Like I shut off the monetary. They're still flagging me for it, and Dom C told me what I need to do, and I didn't want to have to do this. It's going to take a lot more work, but I'm going to have to pull out plays. Like I'm going to have to cut it and create my own file and edit it a little, and then without sound, it'll be hidden, so I won't get flagged. So I'll have to do that. I know where he's coming from. I'm glad that he appreciates that, because I think it's so important to, and I think a lot of problem I have with the film rooms that are out there is they're picking and choosing the plays that they want to show you, right?
So to illustrate their narrative.
Right.
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to do is, and me and Tony were trying to be really fair with the quarterbacks. We were like, let's take their hardest game. But to be fair for all of them, let's take their hardest game. You know, I think what I'm going to do is I'm working on something for the offensive tackle Will Campbell. I'm working on creating a film for him. And what I want to do is I'm going to take like 8 really, really good reps, but I'm also going to take 8 reps that I'm concerned about. And what I'm going to do, and the purpose of the film is not to beat up on him and to make people
No.
hate Will Campbell. The purpose is to say, hey, I know you're watching a lot of highlight videos. I know you're getting a lot of hype, but if you're not watching all of the game film before you generate your full opinion, you
Yes.
have to look at the things he needs to work on, because right now people are saying, there are people out there saying he's like comparing him to Joe Alt.
Oh, brother.
You know what I mean? And he's
Yes.
nothing close to Joe Alt. Like not even in the same like ballpark, not
Yeah.
even close. Different league completely. And I'm not saying that to beat him up. There's things he does that's really well. He's an excellent run blocker. He pushes people, pancakes people. But I just want to have like 8 plays of each to show that I'm being fair. But I
Yeah.
want people to see that he's not a perfect prospect and that there are concerns with him. And there's reasons why I don't think he's a top 10 pick. I think he's a
You know
first round pick, but I don't think he's a top 10 pick.
And that's a great prospect to point out, because I've actually seen him mocked quite a few times this week to New England at 4, and I get it. I get it.
I
They
hope they
need
do. I hope
yes,
they do.
and I was
They do.
just gonna say, if he squeezes in above us, that'll be huge for
Yeah.
us.
I would love
But
it. I would love
not
it.
gonna
It
happen.
would be such a bad pick for whoever did it, and not a bad pick that he's never going to be a good player. He might end up being great, but with the information that I have and what I'm seeing, it's a terrible pick. Like to take an offensive lineman in the top 5, that was Joe Alt level. I mean, if you compare the film, if like I'm telling you, someone who's watched the film, Joe Alt, I had to watch over a game into the second game to find a rep I can criticize. With Will Campbell, the first quarter of the first game that I watched film, I watched LSU versus Ole Miss, and within the first 5 minutes of the game, I found a rep that I said, "Ooh," where like very bad hand positioning, like a lot of concerns. And what was worse is as the game went on, it was consistent. It wasn't just that one play. There were many times where the edge was getting their arm on the outside on his shoulder.
Yeah.
And where his arm was stuck on the outside shoulder. And that is a bad place to be, because any good edge is going to come across like Miyagi and just swipe you out of the way, right?
Yeah, you want to keep
You got to lock
that
up,
chest. Yeah,
right?
lock
You got to
up in
come
that
up and lock
chest.
up.
Yeah,
So,
and then you can adjust as needed from that position. But if you're out here, you're done for, man.
right.
If you're
And there are some guys that, because these are premier edges they're going against sometimes, right? You're not going to win every rep. There are some guys where they don't get that position, but they fight for it and they get it after not having it. They'll actually regain control. And Dom C has a favorite offensive tackle, maybe even second rounder that you can get in the second round from Oregon, Josh Connerly. And I watched his film, and it was like this. It was, first of all, he had position a lot better, but also when he didn't get that position, when he was on the outside, he was violent with his hands and active, fighting for the position. So you could see he's well coached and he knows, and his instinct is get position, get position. And most of the time he was able to recover and do it. Will Campbell, my biggest concern is he'd be out of position, his hands, and he doesn't correct it. He doesn't fix it. They're not active. And the same thing you said by coming up, when you come up, he doesn't come up. He starts off high, which means he doesn't trust his balance or his leverage when he's low. And that's another problem. I think if Dom will tell you next week, Dom thinks he's going to end up being a guard.
Yeah,
and the reason, the reason he'll still be a first round pick is one thing to say along with that. He's going to be a great guard, because opposite, like when he's run blocking, like he's going to be an excellent guard, because in those cases, you don't have to worry about stiffness. You don't have to worry about as much, right? You don't have to worry about going out to get the wide gap rusher. You know, he's going to be, and he's very strong, so he's going to make a really good anchor.
Yeah, at guard, you're more in that phone booth rather than you have all the space around
Right.
you. You know.
Right.
So with all that said, listen here, scouts to other to other NFL teams. Will Campbell's an excellent prospect and needs to go top 6 overall, along
Facts.
with Melvin Banks and Ashton Jeanty. All them guys need to go up in the top 6. Let Abdul Carter drop to us. Let maybe one of these quarterbacks drop to 7. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
big
Here's
fans of Will Campbell and company.
Here's the thing. If I'm, and the draft can go any number of ways. We all know that. But like everyone is assuming QB, 2 out of the first 3 picks, right? Like if I'm Cleveland or Tennessee, even, what do you guys feel about the strategy of you take Abdul Carter, you take Travis Hunter, and then you take a quarterback, maybe you trade back into pick 30 or 29 or 31. You still get your 5th-year option. Maybe you get a Dart, whoever. Like, do you think that the drop off from Sanders and Ward to a Dart and a Howard is enough to circumvent the drop off from an Abdul Carter to a chipper that you can get? You know what I mean? Like, what's the best strategy? Do you just say, screw it, my quarterback, I'm taking them, I'll get whatever's left at 33, 34, 35? Is there a viable strategy to saying, no, I'm going to take the best player in the draft and then I'll get a quarterback that falls later in the first?
If I'm the GM of any team, if I'm Tennessee, if I'm the GM of Tennessee, Cleveland, whoever it is, and one of those 2 quarterbacks are on the board, I'm praying I have a trade partner and I am trading out. And if there's no partner, it depends on my roster. Do I have a CB1? If I have a CB1, I'm not taking Hunter. I'm taking Abdul Carter.
Okay.
You know, if I don't have a cornerback, a true CB1, I'm taking Hunter because he also helps me on 3rd down, 13 personnel, or whatever, 11 personnel. You get him on offense too. But no question, I'm trading out or I'm taking one of those guys because there's such a drop off. After Hunter and Abdul Carter, there is a drop off. I love Ted McMillan. I think he might end up being elite, but I acknowledge he's not the surefire hit that Hunter and Abdul Carter are.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah, and that was something I was going to ask you here in a little bit, but I think that people want to label like 12 generational talents every draft, and it's just not the case, guys. Like, it's not. And then those guys that overperform from the 2nd round or late 1st or 4th round, whatever, that end up being generational talents out of nowhere. But like, when you're evaluating it, dude, you get 2 or 3 guys that are just solid blue chippers, maybe generational guys every draft. Like, so like you said, the Travis Hunter, the Abdul Carter and stuff, those are guys that you're like, yes,
Yeah.
So if you're in that position when you're in the top 3 picks and you kind of need a quarterback, but you're top 3 pick and this isn't a great quarterback draft, it does kind of make sense to trade down. To me, Jeremy was right on the money there. I don't have a problem with telling Jeremy that he's wrong, but this time he is right. If you can get some extra draft capital out of it, maybe take that swing next year, man.
And not that you ever want to lose on purpose, but if because of that you stink for another year, then at the end of it all, it'll end up being the best thing. Like if you're Tennessee and you stink another year, but then you get Arch Manning, and then you added Abdul Carter, you build a team on those 2 players. Facts. Right? You have Arch Manning and Abdul Carter. Like those are your 2 captains. That's the core of the team.
If you're not winning the Super Bowl, you're trying to get there the fastest. And I feel like what you just said is you're getting there faster, getting the surefire blue chipper and then the quarterback in that scenario, unless you believe that Cam Ward or Shador Sanders is that guy.
Right.
I don't. It sounds like you guys are not dead set sure either. So, yeah,
They
So,
could be.
hey,
They could be,
real
but I'm
quick,
not
they
convinced.
could be. Yes, they could
real
be.
quick, you kind of touched on it a second ago. Give me like 60 seconds on why you like Tet McMillan and how you think he would fit on the Jets.
Okay, one of them is the worst possible answer you'll ever hear from somebody, but I'll totally own it. A lot of it is gut feeling. Just when I watch his film, it's something that I'm struggling to put words to. There's some kind of special thing that he has about him, like the way he moves, Marshall Falk had it. I'll never forget watching San Diego State, Marshall Falk, the way he ran up and down the field, and you just knew he was a star. It looked like the ground was going to shake and he was going to cause an earthquake, But Ted, first of all, when I look at the basic things, like the first thing I look at a receiver is he catching with his hands? Right? Because in the NFL, you're only going to succeed if you're catching with your hands. If you're relying on pulling it into your body or catching with your body, you're done, right? Rarely is that ever going to work. So he catches with his hands and he extends his hands. But more importantly than just that, when the ball makes contact with his hands, the second, the hundredth of a second that ball touches his hands, in all the film I'm watching, that ball is locked into his hands.
Plus,
Strong hand.
Okay, so he has super strong hands. The space he creates, people say, well, he was wide open because the guy fell. The guy fell because of the move he made. You know what I mean? Like he's making guys fall down.
yes.
Now, they're not elite competition, so that's a concern. Arizona is not playing the best teams all the time. Pac-10, the defense out on the West Coast is not the SEC. But he's making them fall down. Like they're literally slipping, and they're not slipping because of the field. They're slipping because of the way he moves.
Does your opinion change if he goes and runs a 4.7 next week?
If he runs a 4.7, that's going to be a problem for me. It will.
Yeah.
It will. Not
Okay.
completely. It will be that maybe now that he's middle of the first rounds to end of the first rounds. Because I still think
key.
Because he could still be a big-bodied receiver that still does really good things for you. He needs to run under a 4.5 for sure for me to keep this evaluation of him. He also just another thing about him is he reminds me of Evans from Tampa, but except he's faster. So it's like imagine a faster Evans that's a little bit more agile. He seems a little bit more slippery, but he also has that big body. And it's the one guy when you watch the highlights and then you watch the game film, most receivers I fall asleep because they're involved in so few plays and there's nothing to see. And it's so hard to watch game film on a receiver. But with this guy, it's never boring because his blocking is great too, by the way, guys. He's a really great blocking wide receiver. Everything he does is just fun to watch.
Perfect compliment to Garrett, wouldn't you say?
Perfect compliment. The only concern about him is two things: the competition that he's going against. And now this concern is not saying, and Dom C put this in my head, and he's right about it. He lines up in the slot a lot. They line him up in the slot. Now the problem with it could be simply because it works, not because they have to, not because he's not a boundary receiver, because it works. And why fix something that works? But what it does is it takes away the evidence that he can get off the line of scrimmage fast enough, right? It gives you the concern of anytime a guy is lining up in the slot a lot, you have to think, is he lining up in the slot because he can't get off the line of scrimmage fast enough? Is it to compensate for that? Or is it just because it works and they can,
Right.
So we don't know the answer, but it is a little bit of evidence that's missing. That's enough to be the reason why I can't compare him to last year's top 2-3 guys.
So my thing about that is like, I'm not even, dude, if he runs a 4.7, I'm not even like, maybe that like makes me think, oh, maybe he's not a top 10 guy. But for the most part, that doesn't really change my opinion on him because speed isn't necessarily this guy's skill set, as far as I'm concerned. He's not known to be an Xavier Worthy, right? Like, we don't
Definitely.
expect him to go out there and run a 4.3, 4.4 40-yard dash. Like, this guy is long, he's tall, he has excellent hands. That's what he's known for. So even if he's slow, he can still make it work. We've seen guys that are 4.6s, 4.7s at receivers still make it work because they're big, strong receivers that, they have a chance at the ball no matter where they're at, no matter how many guys are on them. It's still 50-50 at least.
Well, yeah,
You know?
and that's the thing. He doesn't need. He creates space because his route. There's something about his route running and his acceleration. But when he's not in space, he doesn't need space. If you have a good quarterback who trusts him, you don't need. He doesn't need to have a lot of space. You're right, because his hands are so strong and he's so physical. He will win that battle.
Absolutely. And that's something, like you guys were just saying, it complements Garrett well because Garrett, I mean, I don't even know how many like contested catches he even made last season, if any at all. Like, it wasn't good, guys. Like, and I'm not saying that he can't. Like, the guy's got the ups, and he's feisty. Like, we all know that he would and he would try, but it doesn't mean it's going to happen and it's going to work. Or it's the best idea to throw to him in that situation. You need a guy that you can trust more in the red zone for that type of stuff, because you can't always trust Garrett's going to juke everybody out and get, because there's a lot of good cornerbacks in the NFL, man. So
I love the way these two receivers would complement each other.
I think
because you know what? Because if it does take them longer to get off the line of scrimmage, okay, your first read, your first progression is going to be Garrett. Facts. And if Garrett's not there, now now that extra beat is gone. Now you're looking to McMillan, right? Now you're looking in that second progression to McMillan. And now he's had a little bit of time to get off the line of scrimmage and get into his route.
Yep.
And what a perfect compliment that they are to each other. And just everything we're saying is like, GW is going to give you the crazy catches, the athleticism. He's going to get off quick jump, break early. This guy is going to give you that guy in the corner of the end zone. This guy's going to give you the guy to throw it up to. This guy's in, it's a perfect compliment for each other. And if this coaching staff turns Malachi Corley's life around and it turns out he's that guy we saw on that one play that's really good at yak and really explosive, what a perfect slot to complement those two.
Facts. You know what? I just hope that Ted can stay on the red line. Yeah. Sorry, I had to.
And there's one last thing that makes Tet the perfect Jet, and that's Tet the Jet, baby.
Facts. New York Tets.
Tet the Jet.
Jeremy, bro, I can't believe how fast 2 hours just went, brother. I think this deserves a ... to be continued. What do you think of that?
Absolutely. You said in the beginning of the show when you introed me, you didn't want me on too soon. You didn't want to waste it. Dude, you're not wasting it. I had a great time. I love hanging out with you. I'm not even gonna sit here and patronize you and say, oh, I'm doing it for you. Oh, like I'm not sit here. I'll help your channel. I'm not here to help your channel. I'm here because I like hanging out with you. I love the people in the chat. I love you guys. I love talking Jets. And if it happens to help you in any way, then that's just a beautiful extra bonus. But I'm
honest.
Yeah,
it's because of that transparent logo I installed down there. That's why, isn't it? Be honest. I'm just kidding, dude. Hey, like you said it, man. We all had fun tonight, and I appreciate it. You plugged Brooklyn Brothers Food Review earlier. If you guys haven't subscribed to that, please do so. Also, throw out your socials, anything you want to share, anything you got coming up. I know Scott was asking about film breakdowns. What do you got going on from now until draft night?
Well, I mean, the biggest thing, my biggest project right now is obviously the show that you are such a big supporter of on the Talking Jets channel, 3 p.m. every Thursday with Matt O'Leary. It's my heart. That's my home.
Love it.
And then of course on my own channel, I am actually in the works. I'm trying to get something going on Sunday night.
Okay.
And it might actually involve more because this is a new thing for me. I didn't start this way, but more prospecting, more film mixed in with Jet Talk, but definitely talking about an idea to work some film in too. So, but it's like,
Sweet.
so there'll be talk, there'll be, oh, let's go and look at the tape. Kind of like
Yeah.
the old, remember who's that guy, Warner Wolf? Let's go to the videotape, like that kind of.
Yeah. Roll that beautiful bean footage.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, with the copywriting, I just wanted to add in, I've seen some people actually, like once you have a hard copy of the film, I've seen them mirror the image and it flags it way less often. So
Okay.
consider that, but that's, we can
Sure.
talk about that, if you still have trouble. Harlan's saying we got to bring you back, man. I think we do. If you got something going on leading up to the draft, I know Daniel too, would love to have you on then, man.
Absolutely. Look, I'm looking at players every day. So I will have new information. There's some that I didn't even talk about yet because I'm still in the middle of it. So definitely before the draft, when you're ready, let me come back. I'll tell you about anybody else, any of the new names that pop up. Anytime a name pops up in our world, I go right to the all 22 when I have a chance and I start looking at the film. So
Love it.
Yeah. Life is never too chaotic to bring a little more chaos into your life.
Facts. Chaos in the danger zone too. Come on, man. Those yes, love it. Hey, Chaos, have a good night, brother. Thanks for stopping by.
thanks, guys. I appreciate it. It was a great time.
Later.
Later.
Bud.
All right, man. Hell yeah. What do you think of that? Was it any specific take of his that you liked maybe or didn't like? Chat, I want to hear same goes for you guys. Anything you agreed with heavily or didn't agree with? What do you think, Murph? Anything standing out?
So I'm pretty upset with Jeremy, really, because the guy was just spitting facts all night, and I wanted so badly to disagree with him, and I couldn't hardly do it at all tonight. And it kind of upset me a little bit, but that's why we love our guy Jeremy, because he knows what he's talking about, and he's not going to give you the same shit that you hear every day, everywhere, all over the socials and stuff. If he has a different opinion, he's not afraid to put it out there. And a lot of times, there's a lot of logic behind what he says. So
Dude,
I
he's
don't know, man.
rational.
That yeah, it was an excellent to have him on, man. I can't wait to have him on again. It was a fun time for sure.
I was hoping he like said that Tyson Badgett was like this gem in the rough, and we could zero in on him and add him to our QB room, and maybe win 5 games this year, instead of 3. I'm just
Yeah.
kidding.
Yeah, I saw you leave the little breadcrumbs out there, and he was just like, "What?" He's like, "Who the fuck is this guy?" Like, and that's exactly what he should have said too. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like I said, Badgett was fun for like 3 games that season.
Yeah. Yeah.
But come on.
Exciting, like a Baker excitement or a Jameis excitement. Maybe you don't want them for I don't know. Maybe you do. You don't know. But it's a gamble that no franchise wants to have to make. If you fall backwards into it, maybe see what happens. More Tez John. Oh, that's Tez Johnson. I don't know about you, but I got to see a little more all 22 on Tez. I saw game film, but I wouldn't compare an entire season of game film to one game of all 22. It's different, guys. And people have said that, oh, I like Dylan Gabriel because I watched him for 2 years. Like, I'm sorry, but game film is not this. It doesn't equal the same. You have to see the all 22 angle from behind the quarterback looking downfield to see if they're making the proper decisions. I mean, most game films, you can't even see the safety.
Yeah, that angle that they do on all 22 is perfect for evaluating quarterbacks and their decision making and stuff. Um, because that's something I've always had an issue with just watching the games too. Because sometimes I try to get too cute instead of just enjoying the fucking game. I'm like, oh man, is the safeties dropping back? Like, is he gonna throw over the middle, try to go shallow and get under the safeties? And what's going on? And I'm like, I can't even see the other safety. I'm like, where is he? What's he doing? Like, yeah, it's always kind of frustrated me a little bit, but I don't know.
So Murph, yeah, I know, Scott, that was a question for Jeremy. I'm sorry, there was like 5 down there and we ran out of time literally. But there's a video I want to play, Murph. It is almost 3 minutes. If you need to pee, if you need to grab a beer, it might be a good time too. But guys, I do want to play this because I want to talk about it after, and it's regarding Tyler Warren, who has picked up a lot of Jet smoke this week. We're going to talk about it afterwards, but let me just let her rip and we will go from there. Also, if you haven't already, smack that like button. I see some more of you guys have just filed in. Hit the like button. We're here every Friday night, 9 o'clock Eastern in the Danger Zone. Hit the subscribe too.
I'm Connor Rogers from NBC Sports. Welcome to the Big Ten Film Breakdown presented by Genesis. Penn State tight end Tyler Warren is one of the most versatile weapons in the entire country. Whether it's catching, running, or even throwing touchdowns, he's been a dynamic threat for the Nittany Lions offense the entire season. Let's dive into the tape of the unique role he plays and why he's such a promising NFL prospect. Penn State lines up Warren just about everywhere. Check out this 3rd and 1 last weekend against Purdue. They have him in a variation of the Wildcat. Keep in mind, he's a legit threat to throw, so the defense can't entirely sell out against the run. But he's in there to move the chains with that 6'6", 257-pound frame of his. What leaves the defense speechless is the breakaway speed. This isn't a tush-push 1-yard conversion. Instead, it's explosive touchdown runs where no one catches him. The fun is just getting started. Now let's take a look at Warren working out of the slot against Ohio State. He wants to get going vertically, but not a lot of tight ends are simply going to outrun a corner. Where they, and especially he, has the advantage is making a contested catch by out-muscling the defender for the ball. The coverage is in his hip pocket, stride for stride, but it doesn't matter. He tracks this ball all the way and plucks it right out of the air above the defender's head. Where Warren is the biggest threat of all is the middle of the field, where he's already hauled in 23 first downs this season. Let's watch him run the seam here. Notice how he's particular with the tempo of his route. He doesn't want to run himself into the back end of the coverage before his quarterback takes his drop and is set to throw. When he gets over the top of the underneath defenders, he slows down. Now, when the ball arrives, he can use that 6'6" frame and reach to not only shield from the coverage, but to once again grab the ball up top. This is a staple for him in this offense. In this era, a lot of tight end prospects are pass catchers first and second, then blocking might come third. That's not Tyler Warren, though. Penn State's offense uses him on the line of scrimmage plenty, where you fire off the snap and move people in the run game. This is a simple downhill run with man blocking in the red zone. He's going to explode off the ball and into his assignment. A linebacker, square with his shoulders, and great leverage underneath his pads. The running back follows his path and easily plunges into the end zone behind Warren's block. If you have thoughts or suggestions, get involved. Tweet at me at Connor J. Rogers, and your favorite player could be up next on the Big Ten Film Breakdown presented by Genesis.
Bro, I'm not going to lie, but he is a beast. And if you watched that video with us, you just saw that he is a legitimate threat to throw the ball. I don't know how much of that you saw, Daniel, but I'm bricked up right now, man. What about you?
Yeah, I mean it is kind of exciting. I mean, I watched a little bit. Like, see, the thing, like Warren, like I was watching him throughout the year a little bit. I kind of kept up. Like I like the Buckeyes, so I kind of keep up with the Big Ten. WVU fan. We played Penn State first game of the year. Like, I saw it straight off the bat. Warren has been a solid prospect this year, man. He's a guy that, like, it's hard not to get excited when you watch him and think about the possibility of him on your team. Like, I think he's just a very well-rounded dude.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, we need so much that if you have a guy that can do multiple things, it's going to be attractive. If he can, like, literally, the dude is not Bowers, who is a receiver. This guy is an inline blocker. If you don't go and get a right tackle, this guy can, bro, you can bring him in. He can be your sixth lineman often. He can go out and catch balls. You saw him just blaze past some CBs. You can do a tush push package where the maximum yards gained isn't 2 or 3. Like, he is a weapon, is what I'm trying to say. A weapon that can block. He's not going to take the top off, but that intermediate to small game is going to be on lock. I love the pick. I think he is a Jet through and through. The only thing that is tempering me on it is the idea of taking him 7th overall, like Daniel Jeremiah mocked to us in his latest mock 2.0. I love the prospect. I love the fit. I don't love the positional value.
Yeah, that's the problem. For me, like that's the whole issue. Like I love the prospect. I don't love the prospects within the top 10, and that's where we're at right now. If we were the 12th pick, I'd be like, that's our guy, you know, but it's just different.
Yes.
There's the value of being within the top 10 is astronomical. Like it's just like you can really like a blue chipper can slide to you. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
At 7, you mean?
yeah, it's
Yeah.
possible. Or
Dude, if
a
you
quarterback, like one of the top 2 quarterbacks in the draft could slide to you at 7. It's not
facts.
impossible.
In fact, like if the quarterbacks, like if Will Campbell squeezes ahead of us and the quarterbacks go Abdul Carter, that's 4, Travis Hunter, that's 5, Mason Graham, that's 6. Is Ted a blue chipper to you? Because then you're looking at Ted, you're looking at Genty, you're looking at Will Johnson. Those are your 3 that are guaranteed going to be there to choose from unless one of those first 6 guys I mentioned, like those 9, I would love almost any of those 9, with the exception of the linemen, but I don't think that's going to happen. But what I'm driving at is if you could get one of those 9, are you satisfied? Or would you, like, if you did have an offer to slide to 12, is the value of getting one of those greater than the idea of you're not going to get a second to slide to 12, but you could get a third? No, you want one of the 9.
I'm not sliding back unless I'm getting a second, no matter what, man.
Okay.
I
Even,
would
well, what if it's a small slide?
small slide. You're talking 7 to 9.
Yeah, let's say the Saints want to come up from
Maybe,
9.
maybe, yeah, maybe I would be willing to do that. But I gotta
Okay.
get a second. If I'm not, there's no point in trading down unless you're getting like a second round pick. I think.
Okay.
As far as the Tet McMillan thing, like I'm a little torn on it. Like I kind of want to separate. I want to clarify this and separate. Like people like to use the term generational talent, and then people like to use the term blue chippers. And I think that there is a gap between generational talent and blue chippers. I think blue chippers are people that are going to be good to great players. Generational talent are future Hall of Famers guaranteed, like down the road. You know what I mean? I think that if you're looking at it as like blue chippers are like very likely to be good to great players, I would probably put Ted in there. I'd probably put like Will Johnson in there. Don't know that I would put Mason Graham in there. He's kind of borderline for me. I don't know.
Well, table
Um,
that because that's going to be a huge conversation next week.
yeah, and then Abdul Carter, of course, and then Hunter, of course, and then there's really not much more than that. I don't know that any of those linemen are blue chippers, man.
So that's where I'm at. Like, if you don't think you're going to get a blue chipper at 7, you're not getting one at 12. But if someone's willing to give you a 3rd round pick to go from 7 to 12. Why are you stuck on getting a 2 if you're not getting a blue chipper in either place?
That makes sense, but I don't know that the draft will fall that way. Like, there's always someone that reaches for a need. Like, somebody's going to reach for one of those linemen. And
I hope.
somebody might reach for Ashton Jeanty, dude. I mean, and the guy, I mean, he's a talented running back for sure. You might almost consider him a blue chipper, but it's just different with running backs because their value isn't. You know what I mean?
You can't take a running back if you have 10 other holes. If you have 3 or 4, yes. So that limits his impact, I think.
Especially whenever you can get talented guys later in the draft at running back, man. It's
Facts.
easy. Like, I don't want to say easy, but like it's a lot easier to find you're like an Alvin Kamara than it is,
I
because
do.
he was what, a third round pick. I mean, look
Yeah.
at what he was for the Saints over the past 7 years or whatever. Yeah.
Do you so earlier in the week, Daniel, we talked about what we might do tonight, and things have changed. Obviously, we're over 2 hours in. I don't know if you still want to or not. We can table this idea for another night. But what I had in mind was listing out the possible directions we could go at 7, and then ranking them in how we would prioritize them happening. That could be an hour-long segment. So, do you want to just kind of talk about it briefly, and then we can actually do a full breakdown of it another night, maybe when we have nothing left? Because I know I could talk about it over a few minutes and go from there. But it's up to you, brother.
So I missed what the subject was, and that I was zoned out for a
So
second.
we had talked a few weeks ago, and we kind of listed privately what our top 5 things would be us doing at 7, like slide back versus. So Carter and Hunter were 1 and 2, and then third was such and such. Slide back was ahead of this guy though, and trade up was ahead of that guy. We kind of had our private lists on what we wanted the Jets to do. We can do a full breakdown on that. I think we should do that another night though. um, but what do you think about just discussing it over the next few minutes, and maybe consulting the chat as well? Just kind of like a broad view of what the Jets should do, because I know slide back is big for me. It's huge. But there's also a couple guys I have ahead of sliding back that I would stick and pick that I could possibly trade up for. What do you think? Like, do you want to spitball over that?
Man, there's so many ways to go. Um, and it really depends on the draft too, because like the stick and pick thing, like you don't know who's going to be available. Like, so like let's say you're high on the idea of trading up for Cam Ward. What if Cam Ward falls to 7? Like, that is not crazy. Quarterbacks get taken at 7 all the time. Like, it's not that crazy of an idea. Um, so it's hard to judge where that falls in your ranking list, but I will say that I think both you and I have it probably top 2 or 3 in our ranking list of what we would do. Trade back is a very intriguing option this year, because I'm very high on getting draft capital at least for next year, if nothing else.
And agreed. I'm also high on getting one more pick in the top 100 this year. I'm not. It doesn't have to be a second, but if we could get like a third and maybe a third next year, I can work with that. I can, but I just need more, man. I need
See,
more
so
top 100
if
picks.
if I can trade from 7 to 14, 15 and get a first next year along with a third this year or a fourth this year, I'm all about it, man. That
Facts.
to me would be nice because like I think after like we talked about the blue chippers and stuff. After the blue chippers, like the talent level is very similar from 7 to 20. You know, I think that we'll be fine regardless. So trading down is high up on both of our rankings, I would say. And it depends on what's available, what the options are, and so on and so forth. Um, Sticking and picking, I'm not against that. I think I would rather stick and pick than I would trade up. But if they're really high on a quarterback, man, that's probably the only thing I could see them trading up for. I don't know if I'm willing to trade up for, as much as I love Abdul Carter, I don't know if I'm willing to give up that much capital for him.
Let me ask you this. If you're Tennessee, what are you doing?
If I'm Tennessee, I'm probably taking the quarterback, man.
You're
You're
taking
picking
Cam Ward?
probably. Do you think Will Levis is the guy?
No.
It's either that or trade down, you know.
Well,
But
yeah. But you think, okay, let's just put it this way. Do you think Cam Ward is going first overall?
I think it's likely. Whether they're trading down and the team that trades up is getting Cam Ward or Tennessee's doing it, one of the two.
Rather than us list our options at 7, I'm just going to bring up this mock draft simulator where we power all top 7 teams. And we're going to go one by one and just tell you as a consensus what we think, how the dominoes fall until we get to 7. And we'll see what's left. It won't take but 10 minutes. Sorry if there's any lag on my end, Daniel, if I talk over you or there's long blanks or whatever. But we just concluded that Cam Ward would go first overall. It doesn't matter if it's the Titans or not. It really doesn't, because it's not going to be us, and he's going to go first. That's the point. But if Cam Ward's going first overall, who do we, and Daniel, if you're dead set, I'll take your answer, but chat, you can chime in as well. Who do we think will go second overall? Primarily to the Browns, but keep in mind it's more important to have the spot number right than the team going to them.
Yeah, yeah. Um, but I think that if Abdul Carter is on the board and when the Browns pick, I think it's a lock. If they trade away Miles Garrett, they're going to want to replace him with somebody, you know, that can produce.
I'm with you. The Miles Garrett thing is huge because yes, they'll probably aim to get 2026 picks too, for Garrett. That way they can get their quarterback next year, or maybe they take a quarterback at the end of round 1, beginning of round 2. The
Yeah,
chat's
maybe
chiming
Dart
in.
is available for him
Yeah.
in the second round. Who it's hard to say.
Scott says we know who he thinks. What do you think he means by that, Daniel?
We know who he thinks.
Yeah, I'm doing too
You
many
know who I
things.
think is what he. Oh, okay. I was like reading that wrong. I don't know, Scott. Why don't you elaborate, buddy? What do you think?
Thank you.
Maybe the chat doesn't know, Scott. Well, you ever think about that?
Yeah, exactly, Scott. There's things that I talked to Daniel about already, but I have to hope that he pretends I never told him because nobody else knows.
Exactly. Exactly. We rehashed a conversation or two. That's okay.
Facts. All right, second overall, I'm confident putting Abdul Carter in there along with you, Daniel. Chad, I think, is catching up, but I think they'd be cool with that too. I know not Joe Douglas, but JD says Abdul Carter would work it too as well.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. And the Giants, I mean, do you see the Giants doing anything other than quarterback?
Do you think Dion will tell them that his son can't go there?
I mean, you never know. The Giants had an issue like that before, didn't they? Or no, it was the
Yeah.
Chargers. The Chargers picked Eli Manning, and Eli said, "I ain't playing for the Chargers," and they traded him, yeah, for Philip Rivers. That's one of the craziest things in draft history to me. The fact that a player said, "No, I'm not playing for them," and forced a trade like that. Both ended up being
That
fine players. I mean,
facts. That had to be. I don't know what draft that was, like 04? No.
like I
Um
think if you put Philip Rivers on the Giants, they would have won a similar amount of Super Bowls, like between 1 and 3, in Eli's tenure.
Scott said that the Giants benefited from it. But moving forward to 2025, number 3, talk me out of it. Why am I not putting Shador Sanders right here?
I don't see. That's what I'm saying. I don't see them not going quarterback, and it just feels like a Giant. Like Shadur's feels like a Giant to me, man.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Might as well clean him out a locker in Jet Life Stadium because he's coming to Gotham.
Yeah.
It's funny because this is the first year I've had to select quarterbacks in order to find them because they are not like. Look at this, Shador ranked 47th.
What?
Yeah, yeah,
I
man.
mean, I'm not fully against him being ranked lower than what he's been going, but 47. But teams reach for quarterbacks. We all know that. And this almost feels like a lock too. I mean, do you see Travis Hunter dropping below 4?
Only because of the smoke of how badly they need an O line in front of Drake May. Chad, I would like to hear your thoughts on this. New England, I feel like New England, this is right here the linchpin of the top 10. I think this is where the draft really starts. I think the top 3 players are all going top 3, whether those teams are drafting them or not, or a different order, whatever. I think the draft starts at pick number 4. And oh man, if you only read the news, if you were 1 week old, you only had access to information over the past 7 days, you would be picking Will Johnson here. Is that his name? Johnson or Campbell? Whatever one the O lineman is.
Campbell.
Campbell.
Yeah,
Thank you, Campbell.
Johnson is they're both LSU too. It's funny.
Too
Um,
many Wills.
or no, Will Johnson is Michigan. I'm sorry, I was wrong about that. But yeah, too many Wills. Um, yeah.
But
So I don't know, man. Do you pass up Travis Hunter at 4? But they
yeah,
they
you
have
don't.
a cornerback. It's tough. Maybe they will reach. My hopes is that they'll reach for a lineman. Clancy's saying
Yeah.
Hunter.
For all we know, they get a couple O linemen in the free agency because I think they have like one of the top cap spaces in the league. Who's to say they don't go and get Trey Brown from Kansas City and they don't get, a tackle? That way they have flexibility at 4th overall. If they don't take Travis Hunter here, I think that they, instead of taking Will Campbell, they probably slide down and someone else takes Hunter. The point is, Travis Hunter is not escaping the top 4, if you ask me.
I agree. I think he's too talented, really, to drop out of the top 4. Even though they do have a need, but like you said, dude, we have to factor in free agency. You know, and maybe they're not that high on these linemen. Like I'm really not that high on these linemen.
Facts. Moving to 5th overall. Jets are coming up, guys. Please get in on the chat. I know you guys are winding down too, along with us, it looks like. But we only have picks 5, 6, and 7th left. We are at 5th. Jaguars, almost the same player is getting mocked to them 24/7, but that doesn't mean anything. Where do you think the Jacksonville Jaguars go, Daniel?
This is a tough pick for me. It really is because I don't know, man. Maybe they'll go for Mason Graham. Scroll down a little bit. Let me see some other guys so I have them in my head here. Uh, jeez Louise. Yeah, I mean, I could see them actually reaching. I shouldn't say reaching, but I could see them going for one of those linemen too. Um, they're going to want to keep their um, quarterback healthy. Their nice long-haired, almost a bust quarterback healthy.
Sunshine.
They, yeah, on a cloudy day. They just hired a GM today, whose name I've never heard in my entire life. Did you happen to catch that news?
Gladstone, right?
Yeah, Gladstone. I know I'd remember that name if I saw it.
Dude, when I saw that, I could think of nothing else but Joey Gladstone from Full House, Uncle Joey.
Yeah, I see. I never really watched Full House when I was younger. I know, but yeah, sure, I'll drink to it though. I gotta get me one of them. How the hell am I a co-host and I don't have a damn
Yeah,
koozie?
you know what? I think one's gonna arrive at your doorstep next week, to be honest, brother.
Ooh, ooh,
Yes,
that
sir.
would be nice. Pay for it.
No. Yeah, you can find it in my merchandise shop for just $99.99, guys. Right next to the men's G strings.
I'll model those later.
uh, Chat, come on. You're letting me down here, chat. Tell me why we aren't putting Mason Graham here. I think me and Daniel are fairly consistent. Whether Daniel agrees and whether Mason Graham's top 5 material is, I don't know. That's something else, right? Do we think Mason Graham will go here? I mean, look at what's on the board. Do you have an argument for a different player going? I mean, the trenches is so positional value, right?
Yeah, so I could see either Mason Graham or Will Campbell. Look at their needs. Guard and defensive interior, right? Will Campbell might be an excellent guard, you know. So, but defensive interior, I mean, if they need that, then go for it.
So,
I can't
uh,
even one of their tackles right now because I don't know if they still have. They don't have Folio anymore, right?
okay, so Scott and Clancy are both saying Graham along with us. That's good enough for me. Mason
Yep.
Graham, it is. To Vegas.
Yeah. So Vegas is probably disappointed that neither of those quarterbacks fell. Do they reach for GNT? I don't know. I don't
You know,
know. I can see.
I
Go ahead.
good. No, I was just gonna say if they want Genty, they probably slide and someone else goes 6. That's all I was thinking.
Well, I'm assuming we're not going to do any trades. If they need cornerback, Will Will Johnson is a hell of a prospect. I could see that being the pick.
Will Johnson here. I could see it. Let me scroll the list real quick. We got T Mac, we got Genty, we got Starks, which I think is too high to take. Will Campbell, ADP 9. Oh yeah, that's up there. Dude, Barron is a fucking beast, dude. If we could get him next to Sauce, I would be geeked out, man. I don't think he's there at 42 though. Burden, I don't know much about. You got Warren. Let's look at ADPs. Okay, Will Johnson.
I'm surprised Will Johnson is that low.
Will Campbell at ADP 9. We got Will Johnson at 10. Man, where's the
rankings?
Yeah, correct. Yeah, so the rankings are PFF's grade. ADP is where people are actually slotting them. Do you think this is a spot where Tep McMillan can get sniped?
It's possible. Who's their wide receivers right now? They got your boy, don't they?
Jacoby and Bowers, plus maybe something in free agency, man.
Jacoby and Bowers.
Yep.
Receivers. I feel like they had a young guy that was kind of popping off a little bit too that I didn't know the name of prior to this year.
They might. I do kind of lean corner here. See what the chat has to chime in. We got to know quick what you guys think of who's going 6th overall, whether it's Raiders or some team trading up and got to have whoever's going here. Who's this?
They have a lot of needs, honestly.
Yeah. Dude, that's one guy I'm higher than consensus on, though. Aiden O'Connell. I know he's not a starter, but I think he's fringe top 50. Maybe like a 45 to 55 quarterback in the league, which probably
quality backup.
Yeah.
I don't think he's a starter though. That's the problem.
JD is saying he could see the Raiders taking Tet. He hopes not. Clancy's not caring what's left. He's thinking he's saying if the Raiders do, we're not screwed if they take Tet, and I get that. Infrared thinks someone will trade up. I'm leaning corner. I'm Will Johnson, right? Or Will Campbell. Help me out, Murph. Final decision.
If it's between those two, it's definitely Will Johnson. To me, it's between Tet and Will Johnson for them. I don't know. Think about it. Is Carroll, what's he going to prioritize? His first year coaching a team. You're muted. Oh, no.
Damn. Tough one, man.
So think about it, man. Like his years that he had the most success, what was his teams known for? There's a particular
very, very, very good point. Legion of Boom.
Yeah.
That's an excellent point. I think you nailed it right there.
So the secondary, I feel like, is something he's going to put a lot of emphasis on. He's got an edge. He needs to have a lockdown corner.
Back-to-back Wolverines. And we didn't rig this, but I do feel
Buffaloes earlier.
We had what?
Back-to-back Buffaloes.
Oh yeah, we did, didn't we? Yeah. Okay, so this is the grand finale, guys, and this is honestly quite likely to be what we're staring at. With the exception, I mean, if Will Campbell squeezes in there, give me 30 seconds on that. If Will Campbell squeezes into this top 6, does it change your decision making?
No, because Ward or Carter's not going to fall. The quarterbacks probably aren't going to fall. Hunter's not going to fall. If anybody falls, it'll be Mason Graham or Will Johnson, and I'm not that high on Mason Graham. Like I don't think he's a bad prospect. I just don't think he's like 7th pick worthy. Like, I do like Will Johnson, but I think that wide receiver is a bigger need than corner. And tight end is definitely a bigger need than corner right now. Um, and to me, that's who it's down to. It's between Tet and Tyler Warren.
So we're not taking Genty.
If you can get him at 42, yeah.
Yeah. Chad, I got to hear from you, man. Are we drafting Tet right now? Are we really? Because I need a change of pants ready if we are. I mean, I think it goes back like here. Let me do something here.
Let me ask you: are any of these edges after Abdul Carter worth taking at 7? Because that's a big question right there. And is edge
Yeah.
big enough of a need to do that? We have
Did it
two
go?
starting at.
And it goes back to like that whole thing of pick 7 is enormously valuable. And I know it doesn't mean this year, but like it's huge. It's the best pick that we should have the rest of the decade. Let's not take a second or third best at their position. Let's take Tet if he's the best. Let's take I don't care. Like let's take
You
Warren
want
if he's
to
the
say it? Take
best.
Tyler Warren if he's the best.
Take
You're trying to
Starks.
stop
No.
yourself.
Nah, I was thinking Starks, but I'm like, dude, I can't take a safety at 7. I can't.
That's like taking a running back at 7, man. That's tough.
Well, Scott chimed in. He said Tet. Clancy says that we will see. I mean, the combine. I really think that Tet's speed numbers are going to play a massive role. I don't think he's running a 4.7. But Jeremy said he needs to run a sub 4.5. I don't think he does that either. Mike Evans was a 4.55 ish. I think he's about that. Chat, it's your last chance to stop me from drafting Tet. I need you guys to tell me if
I can't let a 40-yard dash turn me completely away from a guy either. That's my thing. Like, I'd have to be borderline on a guy for me to let that be a thing.
But do you agree that if he runs a 4.4, he's probably gone in the top 5? Or
If he
no?
runs 4.4,
Yeah, 4.4
yeah,
something.
probably, dude. We probably won't have a chance. I mean, that might boost his draft stock because I do know that there's a lot of NFL scouts and front offices that do put stock into the combines and 40-yard dashes, especially at that position.
With the receivers too, the 10-yard splits and shit are more important than anything.
Yeah, that's really big. A lot of it too is like just how fluid they are in their routes, man. That's a big part of it. Like that can force separation right there.
Murph, I need you to field a question while I finish up this mock draft. The question is on screen now.
Our guy Red, he says, "What if Muji gets rid of Garrett and Hall for 2 first-round picks and 2 second-round picks?" First of all, I'm just going to say it's not going to happen. Like that. I don't. He might get rid of one of those players. He's not getting rid of both. Um, if he does get rid of both, which, like I said, is unlikely, I don't think you're getting that Hall for him. I think Brees Hall right now is valued at like a 3rd-round pick, maybe some change. I think Garrett Wilson is valued at like a 1st-round pick, maybe some change. You're not getting 2 firsts and 2 seconds for those guys.
No, and I get it. We're all trying to generate picks, but like Garrett would need to show to me that he is not willing to stay, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I just like. Would I be upset if that happened? If they got rid of both of those players and got those picks? Like, probably not. I mean, that's a heck of a haul, but I don't. I don't see it happening.
All right, so this is what we got, Murph. What are your thoughts? Not on how good this is, because come on now, we did it. I want to know like what you think the realisticness is of this. Maybe not in each individual team, but what do you think are the odds that these are our top 8 selections?
I think it's very likely. I mean that's to me is the best 8 players in the draft, probably, arguably.
If
Maybe
we
have Tyler Warren in there, but like, I mean, it's pretty close to being the best 8 players in the draft right there.
agreed, and factoring in positional value, obviously, or we would definitely have Genty in here, I think, too. But if we don't get Tet, would you be bummed if we wind up with a different one of these players?
Um,
Be honest. I mean, if it a quarterback, that's a combo.
Will Will Campbell would probably be a little bummed about.
Even
Not
even
just
if we
the
made him
fact
a
that
guard and bumped
not just the
AVT
fact that
out.
I'm not that crazy about him, but also the fact that I just like our offensive line, like that's actually not the position I'm looking for at all right now, man. So
We're
it's
tired of
like
the veggies.
he's not BPA and he's not need, and it's like why are we drafting him at that point?
I've had my fill of broccoli, bro, last year. Enough of our veggies, man.
We've eaten enough vegetables at this point. As long as we re-sign Moses, we're fine. If we
Nah.
do. But there's a few players on here that if we drafted them, I'm just gonna be like, okay. That's gonna be my reaction. Is it's like, okay. And then there's a few players on here that I'm gonna be like, fuck yeah, let's go, but we'll see.
Red, you'd be bummed out, man. I know you're big on Mason Graham, but if it goes this way, he's not on your list of options. So, um, let me know what you would do then if you were at pick 7 with that list of options. What would you lean toward? Um, Couple tweets I grabbed this week. We got to get to, and guys, we're not going to make the 3 hour mark. We got like 15 minutes maximum left. So get your final nuggets in. We will hit them. I'm getting a little sideways. I don't know about Murph. Either tired or sideways himself. But
I'm always tired.
I did see a cool tweet this week I want to share with y'all. Let's see if I got it. Here we go. This is from like Thanksgiving ish. And it says, these are the defensive coordinators who have limited their opponents to fewer than 5 average net yards per attempt, which is crazy to think about. But there are 5 that were 5 yards or less per attempt. They are Vic Fangio, Vance Joseph, Brian Flores, Jesse Minter, and Aaron Glenn. And this is Thanksgiving of 2024. In my opinion, I think Glenn is going to be working with more talent than he had then. So it's one of the big reasons why I don't want to go defense in the top 10. I want to go offense. It's because, like, look what he just did with a boatload of injuries. We already have a couple blue chippers, in my opinion, on the defense. That's plenty. He doesn't need more. I mean, he can get more in a long game, but like short window, he doesn't need more. Yeah, bro. top 5. Like, actually, the Lions were second in the league at average net yards per attempt. So the pass defense is going to be ferocious. Thoughts on this graphic? Does it mean anything to you at all? Am I overstating it?
No, I mean that just shows you who probably the best defensive coordinators in the league were. I mean, that's simply put. Um, there's something to be said, like you said. Uh, Glenn was doing it with as little as he was with all the injuries that they had. They have a talented defense. They have a lot of talent on that defense, but they had guys dropping left and right throughout the season. And just the biggest thing, missing Aiden Hutchinson, that's their stud star pass rusher. That's their Miles Garrett. That's their TJ Watt. Missing him and still producing like they did, it's a feat. It is. I still wouldn't let it deter me from drafting defense in the first round because I just want the best talent, right?
Strengthening strengths, baby.
That's what you got to do. I just want the best talent, man. You know, you
I
have
do.
to have a guy that is like of similar, maybe slightly less talent. That is a huge need for me to draft that person over the defensive guy, like in my mind.
Let me ask you something. If we can only priority sign one free agent on offense, not a quarterback, but just one on offense, and Morgan Moses is gone, would you rather spend premium money on a guard slash tackle or a wide receiver too?
Um,
I live for this silence before you answer because it means that I asked a good question.
yeah. Well, it means that I don't just spurt bullshit either. So I would probably go trenches. I would probably spend the money on the trench. We have some guys in our trenches that are still on rookie deals, so why not spend the money now? And I think that there is, even if you don't get Tet, man, there's still plenty of opportunity to pick up a solid receiver in the draft.
Yeah.
Um, and just because you didn't spend premium money doesn't mean that you didn't get a guy that can produce a receiver. You know, there's plenty of Tim Patricks out there, the guys that are like wide receiver 3 or 4s, you know, but like if thrust into a wide receiver 2 or 3 position, they can give you 600 yards or so, you know, like there's plenty of guys out there like that. I think you're better off investing in the trenches and free agency if that's the case.
Would you agree that it's easier to find a day one contributor, a wide receiver two as well, than a guard tackle?
Yeah, I think. Yeah, if they if they actually listen to us fucking Jet fans for once, and you know,
Oh, you know
draft
what?
Lad
Chaos.
McConkey or somebody instead of fucking, you know, Malachi Corley. But
Yeah.
so I think it's possible. It's easier.
Dude, get an
Although
elite
linemen do have
polish.
a high draft. Well, see, that's strictly first round though. In the first round, linemen have a high hit rate in the draft.
True. I feel like when you do stats like that, you got to throw out the first round, though. You know, or do it separate at least.
Yeah.
Um, here's one other question, or not even a question. I just wanted to point out how great a point out this was by Chaos earlier. He mentioned that because I was thinking, oh, we can bump AVT to tackle, and instead of seeking a right tackle, we could get a guard. I totally escaped my mind was the fact that, and he mentioned this, and I thought it was brilliant, was we could draft a center. and put a center in and bump Tipman to guard and AVT to tackle. Is that too many moving parts for you? Do you think it's a good idea if the right player presents itself?
I don't think it's no. I don't think it's too much moving. I think that first of all, Tippmann has already shown capability as a guard. My bad. Stop doing that. Didn't mean to do that. Um, Tippmann has already shown capabilities as a guard. AVT has already shown capabilities at tackle. So we already got guys that can do that. We know can do it. And I've preached it a lot, man. If the value's there, dude, if you got a guy that's going to be a stud center, snatch him up. Why not? You want the best five guys on your line. You don't want to have the best left tackle that was available, left guard that was available, center that was available. We don't need that was available. Like, we just want the best five guys on our line. We can make them work.
Yeah, especially not being win now. Just get us the best lump of clay. And, bro, the fact that Keith Carter's gone, it gives us hope, I think. Who knows? Maybe we can get something out of Max
better.
Mitchell, Carter Warren. Go ahead.
I would hope that this O line coach is better, but we really don't know. To be honest, we don't.
No, you're right. We don't know shit. Because like Keith Carter had experience. Does this guy? Hayden, I think his name is. Yeah.
He was a tight ends coach before, right? Which, there's, blocking schemes to do. Tight ends have to know blocking schemes as well. So it's not that the guy is completely foreign to the concept, but it's just I don't know that he's done this job before. Maybe he has earlier in his career for like college or high school or something. I don't know, but I guess we'll see. I wasn't against the hire. I think there's potential in it. Can it
Guys,
be much harder?
no, it can't. And what we're hoping for is at least the vibes are higher. Guys want to stay because we're going to need them to, because it's going to take us time, right? I just wanted to shout out Jets Chaos one more time. Guys, if you haven't followed him already, go down to our channel description and expand it. You'll see Jets Chaos in blue. Click on that. That'll take you to his page. Hit that subscribe button. Great guy, and one that we locked into talking to us again here in about 60 days about the draft. So definitely show him some love.
His other channel, Brooklyn Brothers Food Review as well. Just even if you're not into that type of stuff, hop over there, hit the subscribe button, and just scroll past the videos if you're not that into it. I mean, it still helps, right?
You hit the bell, subscribe, and then you can turn the bell off to notify you. So like it means you're supporting the guy to continue making videos. That's the thing. Like if you don't want to watch them today, but you do in the future, just subscribe because it lets them continue growing, and that keeps them from giving up. Trust me, I considered that early on here, so it does help creator see those numbers rising. Even if the views don't, that's my point. But next week we got Dom C, and also, bro, we're gonna be halfway through the combine the next time we speak, which is why I scheduled Dom for next Friday night. We'll have pretty much the entire defensive slate of prospects already having worked out when we talk to Dom, and he can also lead us into the quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, and O linemen after we talk to him. So hit the bell.
What to watch for.
Facts. And bring your questions. Any final thoughts from you, Murph, while we go out the door? We are at 2 hours, 55 minutes. So you have less than 5 minutes, bro. You better get everything off your chest.
Oh boy, do I have a lot. No, I've been yakking my mouth all night. we're good to go. We had an excellent guest tonight. I was so happy to have Chaos on. It was a good time. Really, it was. We're finally starting to get a little bit into the draft content. You even brought a mock draft up on the screen tonight. Wow, we're really breaking the glass, aren't we?
I got to get my money back on that PFF subscription I got like 10 months ago.
Yeah, no doubt. I went to do one the other day and I clicked on PFF and they said you had to pay for, and I was like, get out of here.
Facts,
Exited
dude.
off of it. And I was like, PFN is fine with me. I don't care. Like I'm not that picky. Um, but yeah, so it was a good night. We're starting to dabble into the draft content. We'll start to talk a little more about some of these prospects and our potential angles to take into the draft. What we got? Free agency is March 14th or 17th. I can't remember.
Yeah. So this week we had franchise tag stuff happening, which led to news of guys that won't be staying with teams. So like now, like Sheldon Rankins and shit. Dane Jackson, we're hearing will be free agents. So the pool of guys is growing now, and then later it will open up, like you said.
Yeah. Yeah. So as we go on throughout these weeks, we're going to inch closer to free agency. We're going to get the combine behind us. And then the draft stuff will get real hot and heavy. Man, we get a couple weeks of free agency out of our belts. That draft stuff's going to be real hot and heavy. So that's why we're easing into it, guys. And we'll have more nuggets and stuff. There's always news with the Jets every week, damn near every day. There's always something to talk about. So come back next week. Me and Dane, we'll be talking to our guy, Dom C. It's going to be a great time, just like tonight was.
Facts.
So come on back, guys.
We just did 3 hours, and you know whose name we didn't mention once?
Aaron Rodgers.
That's wild to think about. I just realized we did not even with Chaos, we didn't even bring him up. Hey, it's a new day, man, a new day.
That's right. That's right.
Hey, have a good night, Murph.
That'll tell you, we're not going to burn you out on anybody either, too.
Fact. There's 53, there's 90 guys. Come on, man.
Exactly.
Later, Murph.
All right. Good night, everybody.
I love the show. I love you guys. Fucking, let's go Jets. JTS. Jets.
We can't all be beautiful.
the Danger Zone.